Hey, Jeff, we're going to remove that one.
Welcome to the Trans Am Series presented by Pirelli. We're here for round 2 of TA2 from the Charlotte Motor Speedway in North Carolina, the heart of NASCAR country. And we're all excited about this one because last round was in Sebring, a road course, and it was won by our TA2 champion, Rafa Matos. So he's got the start he wanted. But this is very different. This is a ROVAL. That means a road course and an oval. And who better than my good friend here and former IndyCar star, Scott Goodyear, to tell us all about this, because he knows ovals like nobody else. But this is a challenge, isn't it?
You know, drivers come here and maybe they've got road course experience like I did before I got into an IndyCar, and then I finally saw an oval. Or maybe you're growing up on ovals, especially in the Charlotte area here. Now, today, you need to be perfect on both the road course and the ovals. Very difficult. Think of when NASCAR started to do a lot of road course races. We saw a lot of guys start to go drive those road courses to get experience, even Jeff Gordon. And now we see a lot of the guys coming into Trans Am to get that experience because they think they're going to NASCAR. This is a great series, but the challenge here this weekend is the track. Good on the road course, good on the oval. You need to be a very adaptive driver, and the mechanics need to make a car that's underneath you that can drive on both. Now, I only did a couple of Trans Am races early in my career, back with no power steering, power brakes, you know, back in the beast as they are. And these cars are so terrific because the drivers are the computer, they're the traction control, they're the ABS system, because there's none of those aids on these race cars. These are true race cars.
Thanks, Scott. We'll be hearing more of Scott's insight throughout the show. But now let's talk about that compromise between road course and fast banking. Let's head down to Ben Sissel about the banking.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. How cool is it that I'm here at Charlotte Oval, Turn 4, as I struggle to walk down this 24-degree banking. The first time the National TA2 Series is going to be racing here at the Charlotte ROVAL. So I wanted to bring in who I think, by my calculations, has the most laps in TA2 in the Charlotte ROVAL. Scott, explain why I think you have the most laps.
Well, I think I probably have the most laps for our normal drivers here because I also run in the SVRA series. So I run Group 6 in our 71 Corvette and Group 10 in our Michelin Mustang.
So Scott, in my opinion, this track is like two totally separate tracks. You've got the kind of the oval sections, but then you've got the twisty bits and the undulation in the infield. How do you set up your car to prepare for such a race?
It's a tricky track to set up your car because, you know, if you're too soft, you're going to be scraping the splitter all the way through NASCAR 1, 2, and NASCAR 3, 4. So you've got to make sure it's stiff enough to hold up the nose, but you've also got to accept the fact that to get through the infield section, you're probably going to be, the splitter's going to be hitting. It's just how much is it going to hit. If your setup is too stiff, that means the car's going to push or it's going to slide. So it's really creating a perfect balance, which we never get, but we always strive for that perfect balance.
The Big Machine Vodka Spike Coolers car, the green flag drops. How are you going to make your way to the front?
The best that I can. You know, we're so close to that Sebring podium, and I messed up the restart, that final restart. But you know what? We're here, and maybe this will be the weekend we get that first podium.
Scott Borchetta, thank you so much for the insight. Good luck in the race.
Thank you.
So welcome to America's home for racing, which is, of course, Charlotte Motor Speedway here in North Carolina. It's actually becoming a beautiful day. It didn't start that way, but I'm glad to say the sun is out and the clouds are starting to blush away. Alongside me, once again, Scott Goodyear. And Scott, I know this is a really interesting and intriguing course because of the fact that it is that double dimension, road course and oval. But seemingly everybody's getting their grips with it.
They are, and you know, the interesting thing is a theme from all the drivers when you and I have walked around the garage area is where are we going to pass, because it's a very tricky racetrack. In the infield section, the guys are telling me not a whole lot of grip. So for right now, they're thinking, I got to get a good qualifying. The guys are up front, expect to stay up front. The guys who are starting in the back are going to have their hands full. They're hoping for yellow so they can make up some time through the duration of this race.
I mentioned the weather, but if you were driving today, you wouldn't be worried about this. There's been a few patches of dampness out there, but it's dry now.
It certainly is dry, and the big thing about here, the guys are talking about the weather, thought about rains this morning. Obviously, yes, it is dry. Now the big thing is tires. Saving the tires. You don't want to wear the tire out on the right-hand side.
Yeah, no question about it. This is really, I love the fact that we're here too, because we just mentioned it's the home of NASCAR, no question about it. And we've got some really good young guns out there, 11 all, that are all pretty much looking to be getting in the Cup Series in the next 5 or 6 years.
You know, I look back at my career and everybody that was my contemporaries. At the teenage years that we see some of these guys driving these cars now, I was still in go-karts. I didn't find cars until I was 19 or 20 years of age. But we see what's happening today. All these guys are getting into the big series, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, in their early 20s. So you have to start young. And if you're going to go NASCAR racing to race on this track here, as some of the drivers told us, man, if I can win here in Charlotte, in NASCAR country, in a Trans Am race, it will be the biggest win of my life.
Yeah, we spoke to some of those youngsters today. It's amazing how mature they are and how ready they are to speak to the media, talk to yourself, and tell their story. And like I said, it belies their age, doesn't it?
It really does. And, you know, you can tell in racing today, it's as much what you do on the track and off the track. So as we're going through these interview process with all these guys this morning, if they're not comfortable with it, they got to get comfortable with it, because that's where you get the sponsors. And this business consumes money.
What are you looking forward to? I know you've done a little bit of Trans Am racing, but not enough to be out there and wanting to compete. But what are you looking forward to with this big field, a combination of real experience and then the youngsters we've just mentioned?
And you hit all three there, because there's the pros that are in there. We talk about the Rafa Matos and guys like that are the pros that have been doing this for a long time. They get paid a handsome sum to drive a race car. The young guns, as we talked about, and then the guys that used to race years ago that have come back to Trans Am and are really showing well, because these are cars they just love to drive, the raw horsepower that they have, and it's a beast to drive. But I'm going to just sort of watch to see and take all this in to see who's going to be patient today, because everything I'm hearing about, keep the tires in the car, don't burn the right front tire off. It's going to be easy to try and push it early on. If you get a yellow late in the race, you got to have a car underneath you so you can actually keep and win. That's going to be the key today.
That's going to be one of the things we're looking for, because every driver we've spoken to, because of the nature of this circuit and because it's so narrow, overtaking is going to be a premium. There really isn't a lot of places to overtake, and there's a good high chance that there will be a lot of cautions. And as Scott mentioned, that means tire management, that means looking after the car and having something underneath you with those last 10 laps to do the business. So here we are, set and ready at Charlotte Motor Speedway, a glorious day. Let's head down to the muscle cars and join Ben Sissel down on the pre-grid.
Thank you, gentlemen. Here we are at the fan walk, the Charlotte SpeedTour. We've got a lot of fans here. Hometown for Connor Mosack. But I'm going to come over here. We're going to talk to the person that's qualified second, Tyler Casera. Tyler, I don't know about starting on the outside here going into turn one. What is your strategy?
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. I mean, there's a chance that, you know, Connor gets loose and squeezes me in the wall. But I want to try to hang on there if I can, because I think it'll put me in a good position in 3-4. And it's going to be really hard to pass here today. So, you know, I think we got to get what we can on the restarts in this initial start. And just try to hang tough and, you know, be there at the end, because that's always what these races are about.
Nice. Yeah, to finish first, you must first finish. Tyler Casera. I'm going to come over and talk to Adam Andretti. Adam Andretti, you've been here all day. Are you feeling these gusts of winds coming straight down the front straight? What's your strategy there?
It was something I was actually looking at the weather forecast at earlier in the weekend. We discussed as a team just to keep our abreast of which way it's blowing here at the Speedway. If you're blowing cross into NASCAR 2 or cross into NASCAR 4, it could pretty much upset us pretty good. So that's the only areas that I would see that it would really affect how our cars drive. But you're looking for that crosswind across either of those areas. If it's coming that way, I want to be warned for sure.
How about all these fans?
This is great to see. No, we are so blessed to have these great fans here, and thank you all so much for taking the time to be here and sacrificing a weekend to see us. I think we put on a great show. I know we do, and I know you won't be disappointed.
Nice. Well, let's talk to Robert Noaker. Hey, Robert, if you can step over here real quick. The youngest in our young guns, Robert Noaker, qualified 4th. Nice job. How's it feel?
Feels great, first time at this track, only second time doing a ROVAL. Daytona was the first one. And, it's a really interesting track. The chicanes, you think a chicane's just a chicane, but, they're so different from the front and back straight. The front straight, you're coming straight off to the banking of NASCAR 3 and 4, and trying to get it woed down over the bumps and stuff is just a fantastic track.
Perfect. Robert Noaker. We're going to kind of walk back through here a little bit, talk to some drivers. Thomas Merrill right here, another one. Evan Slater, if you could come around here and talk to us a little bit. Evan Slater, another one of our young guns here. Cube 3, how does it feel to qualify so far ahead in the Charlotte SpeedTour?
Yeah, it feels amazing. I mean, obviously this is an amazing track. So it's hard to pass here, so being further forward is going to be a real advantage. But it's a long race, so we'll see what happens. And hopefully we can get a good result for Cube 3 Architecture and Stevens Miller Racing.
Nice. Joe Stevens, come around here. I want to talk to you because this is one of our most challenging. Now, I'm going to give away a little bit of a strategy. Joe Stevens, you were here last year with the Liqui-Moly car running in another group because you thought you had the strategy maybe Trans Am will come here, you need some laps. And I feel like you almost have to set up the car for 2 different tracks. What's your setup strategy here?
I mean, there's a lot that goes on here. It's a very dynamic place. Ben, with SVRA sessions last year, we were able to jump in those with Mike Skeen in the Liqui-Moly Turn 14 car. And this year we get to, expand on that knowledge base. It's, not a lot of grip, but then again, high baking, high G. It's very unique. Your car's got to be able to take these curbs. We're definitely going to be pushing the track limits like everybody, and it's going to be a tight race. Glad to see the sun out. Glad to see all these competitors and all these fans. This is just an awesome weekend.
Nice. I love it. Some insight there from Joe Stevens of Stevens Miller. Let's come around here and talk to Rhett Barco, our Rookie of the Year last year. The Challenger. You got to get a good shot of this Berryman Challenger here. And then, Rhett, come over here with me because, man, this is such a cool car. You're running a Challenger, and you have kind of a personal reason to be running a Challenger.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a connection with Dodge ever since I've been young. My whole family has been big Dodge fans, and we have 2 Chrysler stores, so we kind of got to support what we sell. So, and if you're looking for a Chrysler, go to barcocars.com.
Perfect. I love how he says when he was young. He's 20 years old. But again, right here, barcocars.com. That's where to get your street Challenger. Perfect. So here we go. Let's see who else we can talk to here. Let's talk to Dylan Archer. Dylan Archer, who did really well in our esports series during the time off from COVID, here racing with this FPEC beautiful car. I believe this is the newest Howe chassis in the field. How's it feel to be here?
Well, it's super exciting to be back with the FPEC C3 Controls MMR Mustang, and we got a lot of progress to make, and I'm confident in the ability to execute, and we'll get it done.
Now, let me give away a little secret. He was running here last year, just like some of the others, in a vintage car, so you actually have some time here. Do you feel like that's given you an advantage?
Yeah, it's definitely helped quite a bit. It's helped me speed up a session or so, but it's all good.
Nice. I love it. Let's come around here, talk to William Sawalich. Hey, Dylan, I want to talk to your driver. William Sawalich, another one in our young guns. Here, let's come over here, William. Racing with Starkey Audubell. How does it feel to be here in the Charlotte SpeedTour?
Oh, it's definitely amazing. I can't thank Scott Legacy and Scott Legacy Jr. for this opportunity. And I think it's a pretty great opportunity. And I know this track is difficult, and I think if I can learn how to kind of tame it, I think I'll be good.
Now, a lot of these drivers in our young guns are trying to turn the heads of some of these NASCAR team owners, and now here we are in the backyard of NASCAR. Do you feel like that's going to give you a little bit of an advantage here?
Maybe on the oval track stuff. I'm from late models, and I think it'll be a good day. Just keep our nose clean, and it'll be fun.
Perfect. I love it. So we've got Scott Borchetta back here in the Big Machine Vodka Spike Coolers. Let's talk to Brent Cruz. Hey, Brent. Brent Cruz, run around the car over here real quick. Brent Cruz also in our Young Guns. Check this out, wearing the Trackhouse logo. Justin Marks, a Trans Am driver, but a NASCAR team owner now. How does it feel? Do you feel the pressure having all these eyes on you?
No really pressure. I have some really good people behind me, and I'm just looking forward to going even farther.
Nice. So what is your strategy? Green flag drops. Tell us about what you're going to do.
Really not too much strategizing, just to really run the whole race. There's going to be a lot of torn up race cars. It's really tight racing, and I just hope to make the whole race, and we should have a really good finish.
Now I see that you had to put some stitches into your car here. You see this? You getting this there, Tony? A little Frankenstein stitches. What was the little off there, Brent?
Yeah, we just got a little loose in practice and did a little bit more than a little spin out. We got some wall too, so we got it repaired up and we should be good.
Nice. I love it. So perfect. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to come back here. Let's talk to Darren Mock. Darren, come over here if you don't mind. Darren Mock, also out here road racing with us. His dad is a NASCAR legend, but you actually prefer road racing, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. This is definitely the place to be if you want to road race. The best competition in the country right now. So we got a good car today. Hopefully we can get a little closer to the front here.
And you're running in the Young Guns also?
That's right, that's right.
So I don't know if you're noticing, but the Young Guns all seem to be up front in the field in TA2, which is just quite impressive. Darren Mock, thank you so much. We're going to come back here. We've got LP right there. Barry Bowes, where is Barry? Cameron Lawrence running with Franklin Road. Hey, Cameron Lawrence, come talk to us. Two-time TA2 champion, new team with Franklin Road as he buckles up there like a true professional. So, Cameron, knowing you, you're probably a little disappointed by the starting position.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever qualified this far back, honestly, which is a little bit of a challenge. I know all these competitors pretty well. They're all great people, but we're just not used to starting a race from back here. So it's going to be a little different. We've got some hurdles to jump through for this race, but, we're going to put our head down and I'm going to drive as hard as I can and take this car as far forward as we can.
Nice. All right, Cameron Lawrence, good luck. Thank you very much. With Menards, Paul Menard right there. We've got Franklin Road Apparel. We're going to go Adrian Lostowski, who has shown us so much speed. There's so much of a crowd here that our cameraman's having to weave through. Adrian Lostowski showing so much speed. Michelle Abadi with the Ghost Skosh. And then Doug Peterson coming to you, buddy. Look at this. He's totally ignoring me, which is so Doug Peterson of him to do. Our Masters from last year and this year, he won at Sebring in the Masters. But, Doug, I know you're not just satisfied with Masters. You want to be winning this race.
Well, I don't know, winning it from the 20th position. We had a pretty poor qualifying, so, Rafa's and Adam really stepped up. So I'm just going to drive around and try to pick up a couple little spots here and there, stay out of trouble. We race next week, so.
Yeah, just in 8 days, I think, is your next race at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. But talk about it. I didn't get to talk to your new driver. Tell us about the new driver that's with you this weekend.
Well, I met LP about 6 or 7 years ago doing the Ferrari Challenge, and Mike Skeen's not available. He's doing the 12 hours, so we brought him up, and he's done just fine so far.
Nice. I love it. Thank you, Doug Peterson. Michelle Abadi, can I get you to step around here? This is such a pretty car. It glows in the daytime, which is quite crazy. But I love seeing this new livery on this car. Tell us about racing here at the Charlotte ROVAL. I know this must be a dream come true.
This is awesome. Never been here, and super risky, track. And there's some reward, but maybe not during a race. You know what I mean? It's going to be tight out there. I'm excited. Kept progressing, put down a great lap in qualifying, and I'm hoping to maybe improve that in the race. But most of all, want to take the checkered flag.
Nice, I love it. And I see you're having some ghosts right now, getting in the mood. Now, explain this here real quick. I see a little mark on such a beautiful car. What happened there?
Do you know Connor Zillage?
I do.
So in the test day, he's very, very fast here, and I didn't even see him. And, Connor's such a great kid. He did apologize to me, but we did make some contact in test one. But, he's such a respectful kid, and I can't wait to watch him because he's really coming up the ranks. He's just a super impressive driver.
Awesome. Well, there's Michelle Abadi. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. We're going to talk to, where is Sexton? Is he here? I just wanted to point something out. I love that he keeps his Horse Soldier bourbon whiskey sponsor, even through the quarter window. That is see-through from the inside, but I just thought that was a really cool way to do the wrap. So I hope putting everybody else on notice there. We're coming back here. Tom Sheehan, Ironman, Tom Sheehan. I thought I saw you have an off in practice the other day. What's going on?
Yeah, we, little driver error there, trying to figure things out and pounded it, and lost a lot of practice time and lost a session. So we're a little bit behind, So we're doing all right. Got a good car to race, and we're looking forward to this race and getting to the end. And it's going to be exciting for the fans to watch. A lot of close racing today. It's going to be a lot like short track racing. And that'll be fun, so we're looking forward to it.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom Sheehan. Let's come over here, Tony. We got to talk to Misha Goykberg. Ty Young, thanks for coming out. Look at that Ty Young, beautiful car there. But Misha, I got to say, if you were paying attention to our Sebring race just a couple weeks ago, I'm just glad to see you walking, man. And then I know that Blaze and the team at BC Race Cars just had to go through so much, because first you had to drive back to the Toronto, Canada area and then try to source parts because the car from Sebring was a total loss. Is that correct?
We'll see about that, but this is a spare. So great job on the team to put their heads down and bring out the spare car, get it all fixed up, and now we're going to have a 4-race stint in this car and evaluate where the Ford Mustang is at and, get a good result here, try to get some morale back into the team.
Now, I hope I'm not calling you out here, but I know you as a super aggressive driver. Green flag drops. What's your strategy?
Honestly, today's going to be different. We need to finish the race, so I think there's going to be a lot of yellows. So we're going to pick off positions, but probably more conservatively than usual. And I'm still confident we'll get, at least the top 10.
Nice. Thank you so much, Misha Goykberg. Let's come back here and talk to Connor Zilich. Here he comes. So, Connor Zilich, always super fast here with us, one of the young guns, but the driver in that ghost car kind of called you out a little bit for putting a mark on her car. Can you explain that?
I was in practice and I was coming up behind her and I went to the inside and I guess she didn't see me, but that's a racing incident. I didn't see much in it, but I guess if she had something to say, then she had something to say.
I love it. Thank you, Connor. I know you're going to be super fast. What is your strategy when we throw the green flag?
I just got to be patient. It's a long race, so I just take my time and I'll get there. I know I have the speed to do it, so as long as I survive, I think we'll be good.
Perfect. Connor Zilich there. Well, Jonathan and Scott Goodyear, I'm going to throw it back to you guys. Thank you.
As always, Ben Sissel sizzling away down there on the pre-grid. Great stuff. Excellent insight into all of our, more importantly, youngsters at the front. And that really is the story of the day, isn't it?
Well, I think the story that I'm hearing through that whole grid walk is patience and survive, because this is a tricky track. No traction on the infield that we've heard before. But Connor Zilich saying that he's going to be patient. That's going to be interesting.
Here is the grid then for our TA2 race from Charlotte. In pole position, Conor Mosack, a 120.4, and alongside him, Tyler Casera. Watch that man go in the Liqui Moly 77. Adam Andretti, the best of the three-dimensional services teams, he's in the 86. Robert Noaker, the youngster, alongside him. Evan Slater, another one of our new boys for Cube 3, is 5th. Thomas Merrill, a champion in the past, is 6th. Rhett Barco, Rookie of the Year last year, 7th. Rafa Matos, the champion. Worst qualifying he's ever had, he told me this morning. Dylan Archer is behind him in 9th, William Swallich in 10th. Then Brent Cruz, the youngster, the youngest competitor out there, in 11th. Scott Borchetta alongside him. It'll be interesting to watch Scott watch Brent. Louis-Philippe Dumoulin from Canada, 13th position. Darren Mock, another youngster, in 14th position. Barry Bowes, a regular here in TA2, in 15th. And Cameron Lawrence, we heard from him, not happy, down in 16th position. Can Lawrence come through on this tricky track? Lostowski, 17th. Keith Prochuk in 18th. Michelle Abate, we spoke to her on the grid. She's 19th on the grid, and she's alongside Doug Peterson for the three-dimensional services group. He owns the car. Elias Anderson from Texas. He's 21st. Jeff Sexton, another youngster, 22nd. Tommy Sheehan in 23rd. Ty Young, 24th. Matt Perrant in 25th. Misha Goykberg, you heard there from him, in 26th position. He's changed cars from the damaged one from last time out at Sebring. Aaron Pierce is 27th. Connor Zilich, he was pole at VIR when he first bounced onto the scene. The former kart phenom is now in Trans Am and wants to go all the way and be here in a few years' time at Charlotte, taking on the likes of Chase Elliott and the rest of it. Watch that name, Connor Zilic. Jim Gallagher, we don't think he's racing. He didn't qualify, and I think he's not going to take part in this race, but he will be 29th, and Jet Nolan likewise had a crash. He will line up 13th, but we don't think he's going to start either after crashing out yesterday in practice. So that's your grid for the TA2. So, like I said, the weather absolutely improving with every minute. So we look as though we're going to certainly have a dry race. But the wind, as a racing driver, Scott, especially on an oval, and it is relevant here, how tough is that to gauge that? You heard Adam talking about it, Adam Andretti.
And a lot of times what you end up doing in race cars is changing the gears inside the transmission to account for the wind. This year, Trans Am's gone to standard 4 gears.
Bill Knox from Road Race Ministries going to deliver the invocation.
If you'll join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this glorious day you have provided for us. Father, we ask for your hand of safety upon.
So as they finish the invocation, just finish your thought on what you were saying about the wind.
So you'd always go and change the gears inside the transmission. So if the wind, you were getting a tailwind, you might go and change top gear by 250 or 325 RPM. Now there's 4 standard gears in these Trans Am gearboxes, so you'll have to see how the cars will react to that.
So the invocation complete, and now we should be running into our national anthem coming up.
Where's the family that's going to do it?
So there's Adam Andretti, and we will have several cars with onboards as well, Scott. That's an important factor too, and if you're watching out there, we use these V-Box Motorsports, and you'll see the throttle and the brake on the left-hand side. You can see Adam there just tightening everything up. We'll also get the rev counter, the miles per hour, each lap that's going, and on the right-hand side, you'll see that red dot. That's where he is on the actual track. And while this is basically for our edification, they get a lot more information that they can look at while they're practicing, while they're qualifying, and even in a race that they can study if there is, like we said, a yellow flag.
Absolutely, and it's called predictive on the dash, so they can actually see how their lap time is going to the previous time or the fastest time they've done so far. So in qualifying, you know if you're taking the corner better that time than previously. That's what you're looking at. You're driving to the dash. You're driving to a time in qualifying. They can do that in the race too, but there's a lot more cars on the racetrack, so you're trying to just chase the guy in front of you.
I think it's going to be interesting. You saw Misha Goykberg there talking about conservative racing. The one thing that really stood out to me is the fact that they do have a race in a week's time at Road Atlanta. This is a championship, a national championship, and you don't want to arrive at Road Atlanta with a bashed car in any way, shape, or form. And as we saw from Sebring, you can write off cars. We had Chris Dyson yesterday lose an engine in the TA class. So, I think there is a sense, as Tony Pirelli, the man who, of course, puts on all these events, both for SVRA and Trans Am, as he always does, has a quick chat with most of the young drivers, in fact some of the most experienced drivers, but he likes to just walk down, give a quick handshake and wish everybody luck. It's a nice touch.
And Tony operates a program that I run with the F3 and the F4 series. He does the same thing on the grid over there, goes and sees all the drivers, thanks them for coming, thanks the teams for coming. He understands that this is a people business.
We will get into the nitty-gritty of the track itself. It's not a track that's easy to set up for, as you heard from Scott Borchetta earlier. We'll also have onboards with the Hawk performance of Adrian Lostowski. Great story from Adrian. He's only been doing Trans Am racing for his 2nd year now, and he was, in fact, our runner-up in SGT a couple of years ago. So he's relatively new to Trans Am racing, but loving every minute of it, and looking forward to this one. We spoke to him last night. Although he says he's not a big fan of the racetrack.
I was just going to add that. Everybody says the same thing, and that's what we heard on the grid walk. As we mentioned, this is a tough racetrack. If you start to get tired, your car starts to go off, you have to mentally stay strong to make sure you hit your points. Because if you miss a point going through this infield section, it could cost you dearly.
I want to pick up on that. Scott, you're known for your exploits at the Indy 500 and many other ovals, but I think that I said to you, when you look at the size of Indianapolis, you do kind of get what I would call a mini breath between, let's say, turn 2 and turn 3. Whereas here, it looks the way with the combination of the infield and going NASCAR 1, 2, and 3 and 4, you don't get any, do you?
And you really don't. And getting into turn 1 by itself is very trickery because right now everybody's saying there's no brake reference marks, so getting into the infield is difficult. The infield itself, very difficult. And then coming up onto the banking, the same sort of thing, getting the power down onto the banking and carrying the speed. But as you mentioned, no time for a break. You might get a little break going down the backstretch into the bus stop. Out of the bus stop, it's a very difficult section there, and a bit of a break going through 3 and 4. But as we heard earlier, everybody's saying the G-forces, I'm not used to that. It's going to be difficult for these drivers. They're going to be experiencing something that they've not really felt before. So keeping the car underneath them, keeping themselves prepped and ready to go, using water out of that drink bottle, because if there's yellows, as we anticipate, you have to have a good set of tires underneath you at the end to get ready to go for the run to the checkered.
Listen, we're about to get into 100 miles of this, and it's going to be frenetic. There's going to be a lot of cautions, as we think anyway. It could be a full green race. It might be wrong. But just quickly, while we've got the moment, what's it like to be on the banking? What does the car feel like underneath you when you suddenly change those degrees of angle?
Well, and there's two things. We're talking about a road course car and a bank car when you run the oval. So, like we said, there's a compromise here. There is no doubt. You would change all the camber and on the car to go and run on an oval if that's all you were doing. Here it has to go onto the road course. So, yes, there's this compromise, as we talked about, with the way the car is going to be set up. Getting through the banking itself, it's a great feeling, a lot of G-forces, but can also just put a lot of wear on your neck. And we talked about before, guys are starting to add pads onto their headrest here because they've not felt the G-forces before. If your neck is sore, you're already thinking about it in the car, which means you're not paying 110% attention to what you're doing on the racetrack. Mental mistakes lead to mistakes on the racetrack.
I know most race fans out there will be very familiar with the name Scott Goodyear, and he regaled us with his talents from Canada for many a year, and he's now involved in bringing up youngsters in FR and F4, part of the SpeedTour, of course, which Tony Pirelli owns the commercial rights to. But I wonder, looking down at these youngsters, how important are races like this, with a big field like this, in a big venue like this, and live on the live stream?
I take this to what we do with our F4 kids, because we went to the Austin Grand Prix last year, the U.S. Grand Prix, with our F4 cars. And so all the drivers think the same thing. If I can show well here, I might get an opportunity to move up. Same thing for this young guns here racing here at Charlotte. They're in the backyard of NASCAR at the home track of NASCAR. So if you can show well here, you hope it leads to good things. So the pressure's on them, but I can tell you, every team manager's telling them, don't make a mistake, finish the race. That's going to be the key thing.
Yeah, that was an eye-opener for me when I heard about testing. When you go testing, it's all very well putting in a fast lap, but if you throw it in the wall, that's the last time you're going to go testing. And that's what one team manager told me, and that is an important factor. It's the same is true with the race too, isn't it?
It really is. A lot of pressure on these young drivers, but there's also the helmet goes on. Sometimes all the patience goes out the window.
Well, thanks, Scott Goodyear. He'll be with us for the entire race, of course, Mike. Thanks to him, and let's head down once again to Ben Sisler as we get ready to go racing here at Charlotte.
So we've got friends of Connor Mosack here that are going to give us the start command. How does it feel, guys? You feel pretty good?
Feeling good. We're feeling
ready, feeling
confident. It's an amazing feeling. Nice.
Awesome. All right, so you guys are about to deliver the most famous words in motorsports. Let's hear it loud and proud.
Drivers, start your engines!
So that beautiful roar of muscle cars here in America's home for racing. But this weekend, it's Trans Am. A lot of the youngsters on their way to NASCAR, and that's what's changed NASCAR in the last few years. We really have changed the complexion. Yes, this is a series that is some 56 years of age, similar to the track itself. But we're delighted to be in the home of NASCAR because these cars obviously are very similar, but we don't do oval racing, not very often anyway, and the combination of a road course and an oval. You heard Scott Borchetta there talking about the splitter. Perhaps explain a little bit more what he meant by that. I guess what he's saying is that if you set up so that you're clean through the banking section, then you really could be in not trouble, but it's going to be harder in the infield.
Well, the splitter on the front of the car, actually right below on the very front, helps create downforce and gives you grip around the racetrack. If you start pounding over these curbs and start to break the splitter, and it's going to reduce the amount of downforce in the car, and you'll feel that even on the oval and especially on the infield itself, because these cars have a tendency to what we call understeer, or these guys call it tight in NASCAR world, and so that means the car's not going to turn.
Here are our onboards. We'll see Adam Andretti. We might get a word with him. He's in the three-dimensional services group. And Adam is the top qualifier, ahead of our champion Rafa Matos today. And he's looking at his data very closely. We've also got Evan Slater. We'll be able to see what this youngster in the Cube 3 Architecture Interiors planning car, Ford Mustang, can do from his point of view. You can see the cars in front of him. We'll be on board with him too. 4 minutes to go for the Omologato countdown. Rafa Matos. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing what Rafa's going to do. We spoke to him this morning. Rafa looking to be aggressive, but not too aggressive.
Well, he knows that he didn't have a car in qualifying. He said, I turned around all my setup to Adam Andretti's setup.
Interesting. Scott Borchetta, the 48. We're always looking to see what Scott can do. He's had such a great run in TA2, and of course is responsible for the Nashville race. He, of course, in the Big Machine Vodka Spike Coolers car, number 48. Could be a big day for Scott Borchetta. And Luis Philippe Dumoulin. I don't want to ruin my Canadian. You tell me. You know a little bit more about him, but he's the current Canadian NASCAR champion.
LP, I know him very well. He and his brother do a lot of great racing up in Canada, and he just got the call to come in this first time driving a TA2 car, first time here on the ROVAL at Charlotte. But you know something? I'm going to put him as a podium contender. Very talented driver.
Got nothing to lose either. Mike Skeen, of course, raced at Sebring. He's doing IMSA. They're racing at Sebring this weekend, so Mike is replaced by the current Canadian NASCAR champion. Great. Or the Canadian version of NASCAR, I should say. So, here we go. We're on the banking for the first time. Take me through the procedure, Scott. You see them weaving from side to side. That's temperature. You were looking very closely, and we did talk to Pirelli about getting the temperature into the tires.
Well, because the car here is on the banking and on the road course, it's obviously a mixture of a tire. It's not an oval tire, it's not a road course tire, I guess, in a sense. But yes, say you're using a road course tire here for the whole complete track. And we're weaving up the tires right now, getting some temperature into it. Accelerating and braking also does the same thing. Pirelli came out with a memo to the teams, a minimum tire pressure on the cars to make sure that they weren't taking the tire off of the rim, breaking it away from the bead, and also an indication of where they want you to set the camber on the car. That's a tilt of the wheels, so you weren't creating too much heat in the tire on the inside shoulder of the car, or the tire rather, and creating an overheating situation.
All right, Scott, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to race. I've heard all the conversation. I've heard from the drivers. I've heard about the setup. I've heard about the oval. Let me ask you one other question. Where do you overtake here?
You're only going to try and overtake in the start. Now, they're not going to go through the front chicane on the initial start or on the restart. So watch for drivers to try and go 2 or 3 wide into turn 1. The problem we know from speaking to everybody, there's no great brake reference areas going into turn 1. Even Rafa said, he goes, it's very, very difficult. I think I'm going to be okay. I go 1 foot later, and I'm almost hitting the wall. But when you go to a start and a restart, you think you're going to be the hero. You're going to go down there and do everything that nobody else can, and that's when we have collisions. Everybody expects passing in turn 1, collisions in turn 1. I'm going to be watching for that on the start and on restarts.
Well, we're starting to get ready for our second round of the season. Going into this, Rafa Matos put a clean set of wheels, certainly at Sebring, and he leads this championship, our current champion, with 35 points. Mike Skeen, not here today, is in second place with 28 points. And Thomas Merrill, the man from California, from Laguna Seca for Mike Coke Racing in that Mustang, he has 25 points, just 2 ahead of Cameron Lawrence, who is down in 16th position. So watch for Thomas Merrill to really make hay here in Charlotte, because he could get much closer to leading the championship when we leave for Road Atlanta next weekend. We're starting to form up, we're starting to get ready, and we're starting to get ready for a race from America's home for racing, Charlotte Motor Speedway. Everybody 2 by 2 as we get ready for that green flag. And the green flag waves, away we go then. Diving into the first corner. Who's going to make it first? Nice clean start. Green flag waves. Already Andretti looking up the inside. Nice tight line by Andretti. loses that, stays in third place, but a good clean start, at least by most of the pack. I don't see anybody spun around there, and there we go through into the infield section for the first time, Scott.
You know, going through turns 3 up to 4, this next section, I call it the roller coaster, because you get through turn 5, 6, and 7, you don't see it, but you start to dip downhill. You come up over the brow in turn 6, going to 7. There, it's very difficult. Car's unloaded, moves around a lot. A little contact.
Little bit of contact there through the roller coaster. That felt like a roller coaster as we were on board with Evan Slater, as he now goes onto turn 1 and into the banking for the first time. Conor Mosak leads the race. He got a third place here. He's used to this track, and he said to me this morning, I just want to get ahead and get clean. I do not want to be in traffic. And he's done the first part of his job, which is to get ahead of the rest of the pack as the rest of the field, as they try now jostle for position into the bus stop, as we're calling it, for the first time.
Oh, and here's the opportunity when a car makes a mistake up front. Take advantage of it. Carry the speed up. Already contact.
What a shame. 2 cars involved. One of them the car number 14. That's Matt Perrant from Bellevue, Washington. But Rafa Matos using the banking to his advantage as he comes into the final chicane, going past the number 8 of William Solich, and nicely done by the champion.
Remember, we talked about Rafa. He's driving a car that he doesn't know the setup on because he took Adam Andretti's setup because his car wasn't working in qualifying. It'll take him only a lap or 2 to really understand how that car characteristic is going to work for him. He obviously understands already.
On board with Barry Bowes then, and looking for a chance to come up the field. Bowes currently in 14th position in the number 32, and the field already starting to spread out. And sadly, I'm just looking in front of me, one of the cars, that's the car number 14 of Matt Perrant coming into the pits, and that could be day over. And there's Lostowski also in pit lane.
We heard everybody talking about keeping clean. It's going to be like short track racing. Tires are cold at the start of the race. Cars slide around. You end up making contact. Then you come in for repairs. You're going to lap down, maybe 2 laps down.
Broken windshield for 22. That's Ty Young from Atlanta, Georgia. He's also in the pit lane. And in fact, the hood has come up. I thought it was a broken windshield. It's not. The hood has come up. He can't see anything, and he's crawling back. Meanwhile, lap 2, and Conor Mosak is flying. Andretti, we're on board with him. Andretti currently in 3rd position and really looking for a big day. He had problems at Sebring. He's hoping no gremlins this time. I love watching the hands move. I love that bottom left-hand thing. You really see how much work. You mentioned the physicality of it. It doesn't look, because it's not that big a track or long a track, but you can see when you see Adam's hands how much he's having to work it.
And all the way around this racetrack, and we talked earlier in the open about no rest here, that's the situation you have. You can see this infield section that we're going through now, turns 3 and 4. It's very tight. There's no room for error. If you go off, you see the guardrail is very close on your left-hand side. There's no room for error here. These guys are using all the track, passed over the curbing. Trans Am's allowing the drivers to go ahead and do that at that particular spot. We'll probably touch on some curbing areas and track limits here over in the bus stop and also in the chicane a little bit later on. But as the cars start to wear their tires out, it'll be difficult for these guys to turn around and be precise going through all those areas.
Just watching that battle between Barry Bowes and Darren Mock. We heard from Darren on the grid. He's down in 15th position. Remember, points all the way through in this race. 35 for a win, and there you can see Lawrence still in 16th at the moment, just ahead of Abate, Sexton, and there is Lostowski up on the wheels, and that's not where Adrian wants to be.
Now, as a driver, it's the hardest thing for you to be sitting in the cockpit right now, waiting them to repair the race car. Then you're going to go out. You don't know what the race car is going to do underneath you. You're hoping it's going to be good, but as you're sitting there, you're listening and watching all the cars go by, knowing that you're losing laps. Very tough for a driver.
And I can confirm the 22 of Ty Young has retired. Body damage to the front. In fact, severe body damage to the front. He's parked it up and is out of this race, and I would hazard a guess that the same is true for Lostowski. He's not going anywhere quickly. We're back on board with Evan Slater. What do you see when you go on board like this in terms of how the cars are positioned and how well they're doing? Can you see how they're driving well?
Absolutely. And when we're on those onboards, as you mentioned about watching with the driver's hands, is it comfortable on turn-in? That means off of center when you first turn the car in. And does he turn it and then have to correct right away? Is the car a little bit loose for him? Is he a little bit unsure about how it's working? Here's the situation going through the roller coaster we talked about through 7. This is turn 8, going back up onto the banking, getting power down is most important. Got a good drive. He's having a look. That's what you're trying to do. And a defense comes up. That happens.
Will they get a draft up there?
You'll get a bit of a draft. The guys are talking about this here. They're not really too sure if they'll get a ton, but you'll get some. Not like you would drive racetrack because you've got the chicane on the front. We're watching the bus stop here on the back section.
Well, it's been clean so far. 4 laps gone of the 45 or 69. If you're not used to Trans Am, we go by either the clock and the timing or the laps. We want to get 45 laps in, but if we have problems or cautions, it may just go to the timing. Well, wrapping quickly. A little bit of duct tape. That's the race's best friend.
Yeah, well, not really, but I hear what you're saying. No, you don't want to come in and have that, yeah.
That was Keith Prochek just putting some duct tape on there. And look at this side-by-side battle here. The number 8 of William Solovich of Minnesota.
Yep, and he got it because he started doing this back coming out of the bus stop in the high banks of NASCAR 3 and 4. Finally got the pass completed.
Well, we heard from Swalich on the grid, and he, like many of the youngsters, looking to make a name for himself, as well as chase that Peter Gregg Foundation 22,000. To be eligible for that, you've got to be 14 to 24, and there's about 11 drivers all eligible. We go on board with one of them, Evan Slater. You can see the speed they're going, just over, 112 there on the banking miles an hour. And so even though it's a short 1.5 mile track, still very quick indeed in these Trans Am cars. Here's the bus stop, and it's a good view from here. Tell me how you approach a corner like this, because we've seen it at Daytona, but tell me from a driver's point of view how you approach and go fast through that.
Well, that one there is very easy to overdrive. I was out in the track the other day taking a couple of laps because I've not been on this ROVAL before. Easy to overdrive the bus stop here, where you can drive into it and you've got a bit of space until you get to the right left-hander to get back up in the banking. This is immediate. Got some great racing going here. In turn 1 we talked about before. Stick your nose in, make the driver sort of pay. Going a little bit wide, make sure he knows that you're there. Stay with him.
Robert Noaker doing a great job here in the 03 car. 6 of the 45, and we've been clean up until now, so it's a bit
there
like Nashville. Look at this, side by side. Next it's the right-hander, and then we get into the roller coaster. Can he hold it on the inside, or can you go around the outside? Because you will be going left next.
Oh, yeah, this is very difficult. You see the car sliding just a little bit. He gets it done. That's very impressive, because when you're on the outside there and you're going over the roller coaster and the track falls away, the car wants to slide on you.
Yeah, that was a very good job, because he just kept his foot in on the outside going in and then had the inside line for the roller coaster. On the banking then. First time we've seen the banking here in Trans Am, because last year was a Pro-Am, no points for that, but this is National Series point scoring. Somebody just missing the bus stop there.
And that's what I was saying before. Bus stop is very difficult here, up and over the curbs. Now here on the left-hand side, the guys that miss it, there's 3 or 4 cars trying to go in, vying for the same spot. The entry to this bus stop is so much tighter than the one at Daytona because the right-hander happens directly after it. You got to give up the left-hander going in there, Johnny, before you make your right. If you try to rush it, you're going to end up missing the second portion.
Well, while we catch our breath, Connor Mosack still leading, Tyler Casera second, Adam Andretti third, Thomas Merrill up in 4th place. Big day for Merrill, remember, championship-wise. Rafa Matos has got up to 5th place, and we're keeping a close eye on the champion, because Rafa Matos leads the championship after Sebring, and he's 6th in this race, having not had the best qualifying. And we're on board with him now.
Watch how he works that wheel. This is the section we talked about, going up over 6 to 7. They'll call it the roller coaster. Falls away there, and man, does it ever.
And you can see him just playing with the throttle here, making sure that he keeps on it. And that's really what I love watching the onboards of Rafa. He's so smooth, but he's just playing with that throttle all through that.
And we talked about it before. No traction control in these cars, no ABS. I mean, it's all up to the driver, so you got to make sure you're smooth with the car, smooth with the throttle and the steering wheel to keep the tires on the car. You don't want to abuse the tires, overheat them. You might need them later on when it comes to a restart at the end of the race.
Well, like yourself, Rafa was known for his Indy exploits. He was a Rookie of the Year in Indy Lights when he first arrived from Brazil, but he had done a bit of stock car racing in Brazil.
Right.
So maybe he's in his element.
And, you know, we were chatting about that this morning, about how different it is coming from a single-seater car to this type of car. I can only assure you, Johnny, if we watch the steering wheel, if you turn the steering wheel that much in Indy car, you're crashing.
Yeah. That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder then how, you know, you do F4, how different is it for a single-seater guy to get used to what is a much different, almost, well, like you say, you can move the wheel a heck of a lot more than you can.
In this type of car here, yeah. And we've got the young guns in F4. We start them at 15 years of age. A lot of kids coming out of karting, like we see some of the kids here, and they come out with something that's very smooth and precise. The thing that they have to get used to is they're not in a 300-pound go-kart anymore. They're in a 1,500 car, and it's not a 12 or 15 lap race. It's 30 minutes. So the kids are getting tired. It's all about fitness. So these guys that are trying to make a career out of this, they have to have a fitness program, they have to train, they have to do a great job on the track, and boy, they better understand marketing and media off the track for sponsorship.
Here's a thing that not many people know. Scott Goodyear spent a little bit of time when Alonso started his racing career on the ovals doing a bit of spotting, and I've just noticed we've got spotters up here alongside us at the top of the thing. That's something we don't see in Trans Am.
You know, and it was different for me because obviously I went to Indianapolis and drove there, then got into television for 17 years, and then got a call to go and spot for Fernando for the Indy 500. And if I had have stood up on top as a spotter and watched what the guys were doing on the racetrack before somebody called me to drive a car, I would have went, no way, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's a tough job, and so much relies on it. But I think it's a great place to do what, because you can see the whole track, given that it's a NASCAR track. On board again with Matos, and he is closing down quickly now. Rafa Matos on
nice.
top of the barrel. Nicely done. Beautiful overtake by Rafa.
Yep.
Would you expect an overtake?
Well, not there, but that all happened from the turn previously.
Okay.
And I also wonder, you watch the car in front of you. Is the guy got a weak spot somewhere on the racetrack, and then you wait till the next lap to be able to pass him at that point in time. It's all about patience. It's all about experience, which is what Rafa's has.
In terms of lap times, 122.8 from Conor Mosak, 122.7. Tyler Casera actually taking a little bit of time in second place. We talked to Tyler, really interesting guy, said he totally relies on the data. He's a spec guy. He came up through Miatas, and he loves the data, analyzes it heavily as we go on board with Andretti.
You know, and all these young guys do, because that's the way they grew up. I mean, for me, at my age, you know, we didn't have that benefit, so it was all the seat of the pants, as we like to call it. And a lot of these guys have a little bit of that experience. Early in the show, we talked about the young guns, the guys like Rafa that are here as a professional, and then they got the guys that have come back into Trans Am, you know, the elder statesmen of our series, if you will. They probably started back in the day when it was all seat of the pants driving. Maybe that's why they like this series.
Looking closely now at the three-dimensional services car of Adam Andretti. We saw him take the low line. Now, we're used to seeing that in NASCAR. How much of an advantage or disadvantage is the low line in this particular setup?
Well, I think on the banking, it depends exactly what you just said. The setup of the race car. If you're binding the car up to stay low, you're scrubbing off speed. If the car's happy sort of staying on the top and then working its way down, you're falling down the hill, if you will, to help gain speed. That's really what you're looking for.
Ah, this is it. Muscle car magic, rocking the ROVAL here in Charlotte. Scott Goodyear and Jonathan Green bringing you the action with some 61 minutes, just over an hour to go, of lap 10 of 45 as we go back on board with Adam Andretti.
You know, and you just said something, because we've been green for 10 laps. Everybody we spoke to this last day said they thought it was going to be caution, because they said, I'm working so hard in the infield, I know that we're going to end up having a yellow so I can actually get my my sprint back, if you will, you know, the ready to get going again. I got to believe these guys right now are starting to sit up on the wheel thinking, okay, let's have a yellow. Let me get my breath back.
Yeah, no kidding. They're looking down on car number 20. That's Misha Goykberg of Woodbridge, Ontario, Canada. And that is, as he said, his spare car. He wasn't 100% sure whether he'd get his original race car back and running, but it's not running today.
You can see these guys really shorting the bus stop curbing here. The guys are going in, climbing over the first part of the curb on that right-hand section in the middle there. Gain speed coming out of the bus stop. You might go a little higher on the banking, like I said, and let the car then fall down so you can maybe gain a mile, an hour or two. All depending on car setup.
What surprises me about that, I know that's a faster line, but wouldn't you upset the car if you go over the bus stop rumble strips?
Well, you know, it's a bit shorter, but you can actually run and do that as long as you're not turning the steering wheel. It's a shorter distance, keeping the steering wheel straighter, making the car continue going faster.
Well, we just had one car spin at the bus stop. He's got going again, so no caution just yet. Mosak with a 1.2 second lead over Tyler Casera. Andretti trying to close down Casera and Merrill like there. Matos is the man on the move. He's just 8.2 seconds off the lead, very much in this race.
You know, these guys are all very close in times right now, with the fastest time being the 122 to low 23 section. There's not much of a gap between the first 5 cars, all the way from Conor Mazak all the way up to Rafa Matos. So that's very interesting now, how these guys are running so close.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a watch on Conor Zilic, and I am watching him closely. He's just done the fastest lap of the race, a 121.967, and the youngster, who is a local man here, has gone to 17th place, having started at the back. The problem he had, we knew he was fast here. He came into scrutineering, and he told me his roof height was 3/16 of an inch too low.
You know, so for tech inspection, after qualifying, the car goes back through tech inspection, and the tech officials look at it. They measure everything from the weight to the ride height to the roof height. They put templates on it, just like NASCAR. So if there's something out from the technical perspective, it looks to be giving you and deemed an advantage. And if that's the situation, then you get pitched out. So very difficult to be able to take that as a driver. But you know you have the pace, you know they have the speed. And as we heard him say in the grid, I'm just going to have to be patient. He'll be waiting for a yellow right now, Johnny, because what he wants is to bunch the field back together again, have a restart, get everybody closer in your neighborhood, as we call it, to be able to go back and start passing cars. If it stays green for the whole event, it's going to be a tougher job for him.
Back on board with Rafa for a moment, and he's now right behind his teammate Adam Andretti, who looks as though he's lost a place to Thomas Merrill. So we can see the two three-dimensional services boys together on track. We're on board with Rafa. He's got Adam in front of him, and as they cross the strip again, and they do right now, coming out of the last chicane, we'll get a confirmation of that. And Rafa's right there now with him, and that's a great run so far, so early in the race. Now,
so you know what Adam Andretti's thinking about right now? I just gave him my setup from qualifying because he wasn't run very well.
What did he do that for?
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
Well, he was the first to say, and I asked him when Skeen came into the team, because Mike Skeen's another champion, and when I said, hey, is this a problem? And he goes, no, we share our data. Hey, more brilliant guys giving us data is going to make me faster and make the team better. Yeah. So that's the outside view. Yeah. Like you say, I think I know what he's really thinking, which is, but I give him that,
Yeah, and you watch the car right now for Adam. The car's walking around a lot right now. So the rear tires may be going away on him. Maybe the tires are overheated. Maybe it's coming away from him. But he's really having a difficult time right now keeping the back end of the car underneath him.
Yeah. So Thomas Merrill does go up to third place behind Tyler Casera. Now Adam Andretti in fourth place. Rafa Matos in fifth. Brent Cruz, we haven't mentioned him. He's in sixth position. The youngster, probably the youngest driver out there at the moment, but really showing what a capable driver he is about to be, because he is so young. He's in sixth place in his TA2 debut here at Charlotte.
So Rafa's now fallen off the pace just a little bit, but now you need to be smooth, calculated, get back up to the car in front, up over the curbs. We talked about in this front chicane as we're riding on board right now here in the front chicane of Charlotte Motor Speedway. In the drivers' meeting this morning, David Hoots explained if you shortcut those curbs, either in the chicane on the front or the bus stop in the back, you're going to get penalized.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the last chicane, and the placard, the inside placard, has been knocked down by one of the cars, and so even though it's still there, it's now flattened, and well, nobody's going over it, but that certainly, it's something that came up. But every driver I know they want to just straight line it, don't they?
Well, you talk about the placard, and that's the signboard they had on the inside of the chicane out here in the front, and that was supposed to give you a guidance of a marker of where you could place your car, so you weren't cheating the curbing, as they call it, straight lining it, gaining an advantage. But as you mentioned, one is down now. I'm going to tell you the second one's going to be gone shortly.
I'm sure. Well, this is the battle at the front, and this is starting to get interesting because Conor Mosak did his best at the start in the 28 to really pull ahead.
So
but, now he's got attention.
Well, exactly, because cars change. The fuel load is burning off.
Good point.
26-gallon tank. They might take fuel to start. As the fuel load starts to burn off, the car characteristics change. Does it suit the driver, or does you have to start to play with the brake bias to make sure it's better under braking? There's not a lot of adjustments inside the cockpit here. You're not changing roll bars like on Indy cars or something. It's up to the driver. So the fuel load changes, the car characteristic changes. You have to be adaptable.
Yeah, you think about that fuel load. We were talking to some of the drivers last night, and one of them estimated that sort of weight to be, when full, something like 150 pounds. And you take 150 pounds off a car, that's a different car.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at people in qualifying, it doesn't matter what form of motorsport it is. and they get dinged in technical inspection after qualifying for a half a pound or a pound. They're cutting it so close because that's how important weight is. And as a driver, I can tell you, it doesn't matter whether in Indy cars, we used to have 45 gallons of fuel we'd start with back in methanol. The car changes dramatically.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're changing a whole different platform underneath you. That's where I mentioned the driver has to be adaptable. Sure, you want to keep up the speed, you want to put your foot on the gas, but you can't start spinning the rear tires because you take the back tires off the car.
I'm intrigued by this battle. Two very different races here. Connor Mosack, very much all about the NASCAR, all about wanting to get there, 23 years of age. 30-year-old Tyler Casera used to be a Spec Miata guy, but we spoke to him last night.
He came through the Mazda program that I was judging at that point in time. He came through probably, I think, back in 2016 as one of the up-and-coming drivers here in North America. And then, so we had a great catch-up yesterday. But you watch him right now. He does better under braking in some of the sections here. But then Mosack seems to get a better acceleration coming off. So you don't want to – the brakes, everybody tells me on these cars, TA2 cars are exceptional.
Yeah.
You know, but Rafa said that, and also Adam Andretti told me that. He goes, the brakes on these cars are absolutely great. Same thing that Tyler said. You know, I got in these things coming out of a Miata. I thought the brakes would be terrible. Braking is key, but you got to carry the speed through the corners, Johnny. You got to carry the momentum going through.
Back with Barry Bowes and a little bit more movement in his car. As we can see on the bottom left, that's his working the wheel. He's up to 100 miles an hour for a moment there. In the ASIO data car, you can see the throttle, that's the T, the B is the brake. And then you see the RPM in the all red going up to, 8.6 I think is the highest they can go to.
See his lap time of 124 we talked about before. Some of the guys are down in the 122s. I'm mentioning lap times because it's going to be about consistency. You can do some brilliant lap times if you do it for 10 laps and then the car falls away from you, tires go off, and then you're dead in the water. It's got to be about smoothness, consistency. We see a 124 now, might start seeing a 123. That might come into play later in the race.
Yep. Well, so far we're all green after 16 laps of the 45 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's a beautiful day. The sun is out finally. Had a bit of rain overnight. But we've got a cracking race starting to unfold, and there's a long way to go yet. You know, we talk about this being a sprint race, but it's like a mini endurance race too. How many 100-minute races? I know you've done Indy 500s, but in these cars, quite different.
Well, it is, because as you just mentioned right now, it is really a sprint race. There was a time when maybe the tires weren't as good. The engines, you had to sort of baby them a little bit. But with technology and engines, the tires being so good, we spoke to all the Pirelli engineers last night. This is going to drive the car as hard as you can, as fast as you can for all 40.
Scott Borchetta in the 48, top 10 for him. He's in 9th at the moment, ahead of the Canadian Dumoulin in 10th position. Swallich is 11th, then Archer 12th, then Bowes, who we've been on board with, as we go back on board with Scott Borchetta on the infield trying to make up some place.
You know, it's interesting. I saw him going down a gear there. A lot of guys said that they had kept the car in second all the way through the infield. He was actually doing a little downshifting there.
Yeah.
So, you know, that works sometimes. Here's an opportunity for him. There we go.
And they take it. Nicely done.
But if you stay in second gear, then you may keep your hands on the wheel, just drive the car. A lot of guys tell me that infield is so tricky, they deter to do that. But sometimes in traffic, you have to go down a gear just to be able to get the momentum to keep car.
Here's the next part of the race that's about to unfold. We're starting to see traffic now come into play because the leaders are catching up with some of the cars that are a little further back, and this is going to be interesting to see just how Tyler Casera plays this. Likewise, Scott Borchetta with a chance for an overtake. But can he do it on the banking? You'd have to be brave.
This is where you want to get directly behind to hopefully get a couple miles an hour. Coming down this front section, though, very tough in that section of the racetrack. He's going to try it.
Braking. Oh, Scott, can he do it? No, he pulled out of it, I think, at the last moment. Good effort, though.
Oh, it was smart of him to pull out of it, because otherwise you break the front nose of the car, lose downforce. So it's still early, only 18 laps into the 45 so far.
Great story, Scott Borchetta, as we go back on board now with Louis-Philippe Dumoulin. And he's coming in to replace Mike Skeen this weekend, but it's pretty handy having...
And as you mentioned, the NASCAR champion up in Canada, Pinty's champion, he's racing up there.
You telling me his brother races too?
Yes, yeah. JP, I mean, those guys are both very, very strong in racing, and anytime there's some great racing going on in Canada, their name's usually up on the top, that's for sure. But, you know, he's also doing a lot of coaching in Ferrari Challenge. You know, these drivers go off and do so many different things. I said, do you want to do more of these races? He says, well, let's see how today goes. If I don't do very good, they might not invite me back.
Well, he just got overtaken there by William Swallich, and through goes the number 8, and that puts him. And there's another good battle starting to form here between these two, because he's not giving it up, is the Canadian, by any means. As we go back with Scott Borchetta. Still not making any inroads on that Dodge Viper. Or Challenger, I should say. No Vipers out there, too. They're out tomorrow.
This is the time where it's very tough because you feel you're faster in some parts of the racetrack. And I mentioned before about sitting back, as we saw Rafa do, and watch the driver in front of you, see where his weak spot is. That's where you want to take advantage of it if your car will let you. You don't want to go in there and start doing some wheel banging or be in a confrontational spot. You would on the last lap, but at this point in time, with the aerodynamics on these cars, keep the bodywork straight. Don't break anything because you might have to come in there and have the piece taken off. But this is turning out to be a good little battle.
Yeah, Rick Barco's the man in front in the Challenger ahead. You heard from him on the grid. The youngster, just 20 years of age. And now getting a lot of pressure.
Yep.
From Scott Borchetta.
We're watching LP DeMullen here. You can see time in that section over there, what I call the roller coaster.
Yep.
It kills him every time, so his car's not comfortable for him going through that section.
So, 45 lap race, or the 48 minutes left. No cautions. We've been green the whole time. It's hot. It's tough out there. It's physical.
And Scott Borchetta in the 48 car, we saw him trying to make a move going into the bus stop. He didn't get it done. Now you see all the space that he loses when you go ahead and do that, and you can't be successful in the pass.
Well,
did I just say patience a second ago? Make sure you can pass somebody without being confrontational and doing damage to the car.
There's no question about it. Conor Mosack and Tyler Casera, here they are in an almighty battle, and it continues. Casera, now let me put you in Casera's position. Would you want to get past him early or just wait?
Well, there's a couple of things. How's your car working? Do you feel overall you're faster right now? And if you can do it without taking the tires off the car, putting the car at risk, and maybe putting yourself off in the racetrack, take the pass if you think you can extend a lead. It sounds great. We talked about him being better under braking. We see this again. But the thing is, do you want to overextend your tires? Because he's got to be a yellow coming up, isn't there?
Isn't
we
there?
think?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
All our predictions, as I love motor racing always does, went out the window. Every driver we talked to be fair, told us there was going to be multiple precautions and yellow flags, and therefore there'd be lots of time to get restarts and do overtaking there. Not so far after 20 laps.
And you've been doing this a long time too, so I think back to like covering all the IndyCar stuff that we had. When you get to a new track, everybody says it's going to be yellow, and there's not a yellow. You know how that works?
That was the biggest thing at Nashville last year. We went there, street course, we looked at it, we went around in higher cars, and we said, "Oh, this is going to be tough. There's going to be crash after crash." We were green most of the race.
Yep. Some other series weren't so lucky.
No, we won't talk about that. Mosack leading the way then and doing a good job of holding off a hard-charging Tyler Casera. Great story, Tyler Casera. You mentioned the Spec Miatas. He came to Trans Am a couple of years ago with his dad and his brother. That was it. I even jokingly said, hey, man, if I can help out, let me know. Because literally such a tiny team. Now he's going full on now, and he's been noticed for what he can do in a Trans Am car. He's got a full-time business. He's quite a businessman in his own right, but he certainly made his way. I first met him when we did our I-Series in the middle of COVID, and he kind of popped out. He was the runner-up in that championship, and really made a name for himself and said, you know what, I'd really like to try the real thing, having done it on the simulator.
Yeah.
So guys, if you're watching out there, it can be. Tyler Casera is living proof that you can sit in your bedroom, in your boxer shorts, get it done there, and then go do the real thing.
And he's been doing a terrific job. I mentioned better under braking, rolling through the middle of the turn as he does. He gets the speed. He's just starting to fill up the mirrors right now. That's what he's trying to do to Conor Mosack, just to let him know that he's there. But Mosack, I like it because he powered down coming out of both the chicane and, more importantly, the bus stop on the back. Power down and does not allow an opportunity for Tyler Casera to be able to get a draft. Now watch here. So look how close they're even right now. We'll see the power down, just a little bit of a gap.
Yeah.
This is a driver right now. You're sitting back going, okay, what do I need to do differently with the car? Do I need to place it? Need to put the power down differently? Here's the area we call the roller coaster, through 7, through 8, coming back up the banking. Power down is important right now. Watch Connor. He gets a good drive off of it. That's probably the best drive off coming out of that corner that I've seen Cosero do. So not much of a draft. You got to be a little closer to that to be able to take advantage of it going down the back bus stop.
Interestingly enough, Chevrolet Camaros all at the front, and then it's Ford Mustang from there on in, from Rafa Matos, No Acre, and so on. So it's a really interesting combination of different race cars out there. It's Conor Mosak and Tyler Casera tearing it up here at the ROVAL.
Tyler's starting to look like he's starting to lose a little bit of his patience. He's looking further back here.
And the two three-dimensional boys, this man Rafa Matos, the championship leader, holding station at the moment. He's got Adam in front of him, his teammate. Adam did a great job last year coming in to the team for the first time and halfway through the season, but helped Rafa to the title. And Mid-Ohio, they were 1-2, and from there on in, they never really looked back. And Adam played a great wingman role, but this year, Adam's job is to win the title if he can.
You know, with the experience that he has and how seriously he's taking this, you can see that when you speak to him, he's really focused on it, and he says, you know, I'm looking at all the data, trying to be better, and everything else that I do, and having the opportunity to have a run at the championship with the Andretti name, adding a little pressure there, I think is tremendous.
And yes, he is part of that Andretti family. I've been asked that a few times. Brother John raced, of course, and he is the son of Aldo, twin brother of Mario. And we've heard there's electrical glitches, problems for Conor Zilic. It's not slowing him down greatly, but we'll keep an eye on that. We just heard that from Ben Sissel in the pits. Adrian Lostowski had contact with another car and broke the rear diff.
So now we've seen the pass complete. So Tyler now is actually starting to put some power down.
Also an update, Ty Young, we saw him coming early in the 22. He had contact with the 14 car and got a hole in the radiator, out of the race, obviously. Stevens Miller Racing. Mark Miller ran the championship, won the championship. Mike Skeen in those colours won the championship as well. This team knows winning, and Tyler Casera is their big bet for this year for sure, and he's paying them back already early on in the season. Tyler Casera looking very, very good indeed. Now Tyler Casera has got traffic, and he's got past Connor. And now here's that other battle we see between Adam Andretti and Rafa Matos. Matos, we spoke to him this morning. He said he's just going to, qualifying didn't go well, so he hopes to get through, and I think he'd be happy here and a chance of a restart to get past cleanly on his teammate. That's the other thing. When you've got your teammate in front of you, you're not going to make a big gasp overtake and take both of you out.
Well, two things. Number one, not only with your teammate after the race in the trailer, then you got to go up and sit in the front of the engineering room, and also with the team manager and the owner. And the crucial thing, and it comes from Roger Penske in IndyCar and every team owner, and it doesn't matter what series it is, do not take out your teammate. Well, there's no team owners.
Yeah, so we just heard that from the pits, thanks again, Ben, that Thomas Merrill got brake troubles. He's trying to fix it, but brake troubles for him. And also into the pit is Rhett Barco, and then looking at that car, I can see him just from my commentary position stop. No real dramatic work going on, but still not where you want to be. No planned pit stops in this kind of racing as we go back on board with Evan Slater.
Now, watching the great racing that we're having, and these guys doing a great job keeping the car on the track because we thought there was going to be difficulty. Past halfway and no yellows.
I know.
Remarkable.
You're tempting it. Scott Goodyear, Jonathan Green bringing you the action here, and as Scott quite rightly points out, we expected cautions. They haven't come yet. And we've got some great racing. Tyler Casera leads this race for Stevens Miller. Conor Mosak still second. Adam Andretti and Rafa Matos in their own battle. Then it's Brent Cruz and Evan Slater, who we were on board with a moment ago. Frenetic pace. Brent Cruz, the 70, currently in 5th place. He's got Evan Slater behind him. We're on board with him now as they go through that roller coaster and head towards the banking. How quickly do you think you can get on the power? We noticed yesterday when we went around in a road car that you almost have to be quite patient before you can really put the foot down.
And that's the key thing, because you don't want to get past that hinge point of coming off the flat onto the banking, because it sort of puts the car into three wheels, if you will. It's very easy to go, I got to get going, I got to get going. If you do that, you end up with tire spin. So these guys are doing a great job.
Connor Zilic still with the fastest lap of the race, a 121.967. Now, who's that slowing down? One of the three-dimensional cars, I just think slowed down. No, the two that we're battling on.
Yeah, we've got one coming in the pit lane. We'll see if we can find out what's going on with that.
That's our Canadian friend. Or it could be Doug Peterson. Remember, Doug was qualified way down as we go back on board with Adam Andretti. And in fact, it is the 87 of Doug Peterson coming into the pits and out of this race. Meanwhile, his stable is going good. And would you say Rafa's quite happy to be where he is right now? Because like you say, it's all about that last 10. That's what every driver has implored to me. Got to have something underneath you for the last 10. And that's where Rafa's kind of biding his time right now.
Well, and that's the key thing. Is he turning around thinking there's going to have to be a yellow? I'm keeping the tires underneath the car, ready to go for the sprint at the end. He's also said this morning, championship is a big picture. Hard to think about that when you're only second race into the series. But that's from a veteran who understands have to walk away from each race with points. We saw his teammate last weekend with Adam Andretti obviously have an issue and not great points weekend.
Well, as we said, coming in here, Rafa Matos leading the championship with just 35 points after that first race in pole position. And at the moment, just hovering behind his teammate, Adam Andretti. They've got a gap, as you can see, of some 5 seconds to the battle at the front between Casera and Mosak. And Mosak dropping back a little bit, so I guess the game plan now for the three-dimensional services boys is to try to see if they can get on level terms with Mosak. But there's a fair bit of work to do to get there.
Well, you talk about the two front guys with Tyler in the 23.9 range, and then Connor Mosak starting to trail back a little bit, running about 125, 125.1. So big gap there. Maybe one car starting to go away. Maybe one decides I want to keep my tires underneath me. As we mentioned, we thought there'd be yellows at this point in time. Only the driver knows if he's taking the tires off the car and what he'll have at the end.
Barry Bowes in the pits in the 32. Likewise, the 8 of William Swallich. A real shame because William was going good. Another one of our youngsters. Good run so far by Keith Prochek. Down in 22 at the moment, just behind Barco. Wasn't really that happy with his qualifying. And Zilic dropping down to 24th, having been up as far as 16th. But as we heard earlier from the pits and Ben, that he's got some intermittent electric problems. Here's a good battle, Michele Abate and Rhett Barco. Now, Barco's got back out there. He was in the pits a moment ago. So this is not really a battle for position. But it's good racing all the same. Great to have Michelle. She's been with us on the West Coast for a few years now, but this year taking the full plunge and doing the National Series. Of course, winner of the most popular driver in Trans Am at last year's awards. Doug Pearson out with a very bad vibration, he's reported to Ben Sissel. Thanks, Ben. Great job done again in the pits. Ben Sissel reporting that Doug picked up a vibration and said, you know what? I'm done.
Well, and sometimes is that the tires picking up some debris, or maybe something going on with part of the drive line. But at this racetrack here, there's a lot of them, not a lot of room for runoff areas. So if something was to happen, tire to go down, or the part of the drive line have an issue, you want to keep out of harm's way. Just there again, watching as we arrived there for a moment ago with LP DeMullen. Just the movement in the steering wheel that we talked about. There again, he's used to these big cars. He drives all different types of cars. This is the section we talked about, the roller coaster. Up, down. This is where it unloads. I went around here. Back into the car gets really light. Then you got to get the car settled down to be able to turn onto the banking, put the power down.
Yeah, I think that would be my schoolboy error, would be to get the power down too early while still approaching the banking, and then just get the rear end out and hit that or touch that wall and end it all.
And you were good as a passenger when we went around there, because I had the car sliding through there, and you really didn't say anything, so I was pleased with that. I guess you trusted me.
I guess so. Well, I trusted your reputation. I hadn't done it.
Yeah, there you go. You'll know better next time.
Oh, for me. Good run so far. You said this guy could be the dark horse, and you've seen him race, and you know the family. He's a Canadian like yourself, and like I said, this is his kind of racing, more so than some of the other Trans Am guys.
Well, and the other guys have the benefit of understanding the cars. We mentioned the first time for him driving the car was here on Thursday, driving a TA2 car. Has experience, yes, has won championships in different varieties of cars. So what I'm thinking as a driver right now is what he's feeling for the first time is the fuel burn off and how the characteristics of the car is changing, the balance of the car is changing. He's got to get himself around that and do a quick study in a lap or two to every 10 laps to understand what he needs to do different with the race car to make sure he can keep up on speed.
Yeah, this is an intriguing battle, and it may only be for, this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the race, it may only be for 7th place, but Robert Noaker is now challenging the current Canadian NASCAR expert, and if he was just to really show him what he can do and get past him, I think people will sit up and notice that. There'll be some people watching today. Charlotte is, of course, the home of NASCAR. All the teams are based here. Wouldn't be surprised if a few were just taking a nod and a wink to looking at how these youngsters go.
Well, they certainly look at the results, and as I tell our F4 drivers in our F4 series is that, especially when we go to the Austin Grand Prix, the USGP, you want to make a name for yourself. Make sure you're making a name for yourself in the right reasons, either winning the race or having a good result, being on the finishing sheet. Don't make a name for yourself as the guy that caused the big accident, the big one. Because the other team owners and managers will learn about that quicker than they will about you winning a race.
Yeah, I think of Roman Grosjean at Spa all those years ago in Formula One. It took a long time when he made a first corner error to get that reputation back. Everybody said he was Larry. Everybody said he was this, he was that. Now look at him in Indy.
Yeah.
He's challenging for the title, and he's a complete driver, and nobody's questioning his skills now.
Right, yeah.
30 of the 45 laps gone, so 15 to go. And now you're starting to think, surely now in that last third of the race, how's the car feel? How much can I push? You tell me.
And exactly what's happening. And, you know, the car's changing, the fuel's burning off, as we talked about. The tires are starting to degrade just a little bit, although Pirelli brings a brilliant tire here. They have to start on the tires that they qualified on, but they do allow them to go ahead and put on one brand new tire. A lot of them decide to put that tire on the right front because of the beating it takes here, not only the banking that we're looking at the cars coming off now, but also in the infield on the road course. You put on a brand new tire sometimes, Johnny, and sometimes it can get a little hotter because it hasn't had the time of getting it scrubbed in. So all these things come into play, and then as a car changes underneath you, you have to adapt. And I keep saying, because there is no aids on this car whatsoever.
You know, this is a real masterclass by Tyler Casera. He's already gapped the man in second place by over 3.9 seconds at this stage. We're so used to seeing Mike Skeen in those liquid moly colors. Now it's Tyler Casera really making a name for himself. He actually made a name for himself last year at VIR, a couple of years ago. I think of COVID as last year, but no, a couple of years ago at VIR when he was right in contention, taking his first win then. And since then, he's never looked back, got this ride, and now leading this race. If this is the win he gets, this will be really, really impressive by Tyler Casera.
You know what I find interesting is that he got in front of Mosak, and he put a hard couple of laps in. They were in the 23s, as I mentioned before. He's now tapered off. He's in the 124 section, as is Mosak, Andretti, and Matos. They're all running the same time frame. So he wanted to gap himself a little bit to Mosak, which he's done. It stays green all the way through.
Yeah,
now we're down to 122s.
Well, no, Rafa's
that's the best lap. There we go.
Yeah, I was trying to illustrate there to just, like you say, they can do 122s. Rafa shows it there. But now they're dropping to the 22s as the fuel load comes down, and as they're just maybe being a little more cautious and sort of settling to where this race may end up. No caution so far, and even though we keep tempting it by saying it, commentators curse, it hasn't happened so far. Nicely done. I tell you what I love about Rafa is the way he can turn corners into almost straights. So smooth through the chicane.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. As we mentioned before, turning the steering wheel strubs off speed. So the more you can keep the steering wheel going straight through the bus stop or the chicane, as was brought up in the driver's meeting this morning, because you want to try and do a straight line if you can. That can't do it to a point where you're straight lining him and going to get a penalty.
Well, we've got battles throughout this race. There's that youngster, the number 35. That's Evan Slater from Portsmouth. And at the moment, Evan pushing hard, but way down in terms of the overall. So we've had quite an attrition rate as well in this race. Several cars going out early on, especially.
lot of the cars that you mentioned that are going out are ones with a mechanical issue or they've had some contact. They were able to keep going so they didn't cause a local yellow or a full course yellow. So there again, lap 32 of 45 and no full course caution as of yet.
This is the battle for sixth place. Evan Slater, right behind Brent Cruz, two of the youngsters. Brent Cruz, really interesting story. He did a bit of midget racing. He's done a bit of, dirt track racing, and he said it really helped him.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear that comment because he said, for me, I think it gave me the understanding of making the car, as he calls it, float. Yep. When you can actually feel and trust it, because the car's going to move around on you, and I think that's the biggest thing for guys coming out of single-seaters. These cars here, these things move around a ton. I remember when I got a chance to go into the IROC series and go to Daytona and Talladega and place a single-seater car like an Indy car into an IROC car, which is basically a stock car. The thing just moved around so much, I mean, it felt like you were driving a bus. So if you can get comfortable how cars move around underneath you, then you have the opportunity to trust it. You've got to trust the car, and that carries the speed through the turns.
Evan Slater just turned 16 years of age. Yes, folks, these are youngsters out here, but they're doing it with some very, very seasoned pros. No question about it.
Back on board with LP DeMolin. Now what he's watching here is a couple of guys battling up front. Will they start to slow each other down? He can get close enough to take advantage of it. As a driver, that's what you're looking for.
Pockets of racing all around the Charlotte Speedway. If you look out the window, there's racing everywhere you look, and this is a great five-way battle. Could be a five-way battle. It's four at the moment.
You can start to see a lot more rubber down the racetrack. As you mentioned, we had the rain down last night. Some marbles have started to develop a little bit offline, so you got to be cognizant of that a little bit too.
I'm going to say, talk a bit about that. We talk about it all the time in IndyCar, but would they affect the marbles if you get offline here? Would you pick up a lot of crud?
Well, I think these tires are also they're very hard because you're not coming in for pit stops. They're not soft tires like you would in some other forms of motorsport. But there will be some debris. There will be some marbles out there. And the key thing you want to do is make sure you're making the pass going on the inside of the turn into the guy and keeping him on the outside to the marbles, if you will, when you're exiting. I mean, that's what you're trying to do as a driver all the time.
Scott, as somebody who is always mentoring youngsters and trying to teach them the way to race, two teenagers here, we're watching them here, who've had very little experience but look like seasoned veterans.
And that's the thing that's impressed me here, because their shoulders. There's all the rumblings in the garage area right now about everybody having to look at all these youngsters to go into NASCAR. Is there more assistance from some of these teams possibly to help these youngsters get ready? We all know in single-seaters and in Formula One, they identify drivers like Lewis Hamilton was when he was still karting. And so are this NASCAR teams right now starting to look at some of these drivers, and is there backdoor assistance to try to get some of these guys in here to get miles? That's the key thing that's in a lot of motorsports today. Testing is so curtailed.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's IndyCar, NASCAR, or Formula One. You need to have guys getting into that level of sport, the top levels, that are not going to have to learn. They're not going to make mistakes, and they're not going to throw the car away, because obviously that hurts the budget of crashing cars.
This is a great battle, and it's intense for it may be sixth place, but these guys are absolutely on it and very rarely making a mistake. Go back with DeMolin, who's at the back of this group, the Canadian. His best lap at 1:23.84.
As I mentioned, he's watching up there to see if somebody's going to make a mistake. He wants to take advantage of it. But the battle that's going on there, anytime you're in traffic, you're trying to pass the guy in front of you, but you got to be so cognizant about whether guy is behind. You can see now, Rafa right now, back down to the curb, through this section here, like I keep calling it the roller coaster. The car gets so light, putting power down is difficult. Coming up to what I think is the most important part of the turn 8, to come back up on the banking, to get that drive, to get that speed, to hopefully pass somebody going down the bus stop.
I want to point out the blue-white car of the 03 Robert Noaker, just 17 years of age. He's done 702 races, but he, like Casera, the leader, has done Mazda MX-5. He's a graduate from that series, and again, Spec Racing seemingly coming into play here.
Well, and the MX-5 series is all door handle to door handle, wheel to wheel. And as I just mentioned a second ago, you're trying to pass the guy in front, but you're watching the guy behind. That type of racing really suits itself for coming into here, because that's exactly what's happening.
10 laps to go, and Slater's starting to get itchy. He's starting to almost push the man in front of him, trying to intimidate.
There we go.
But he's made a mistake there.
Or would have a little bit of help. It looked like might have been a little bit of contact.
Okay.
This is where you're filling up the mirrors. Anytime the guy makes a little bit of a slider or maneuver, that's not right on line. You're trying to fill up the inside of the track. And you can feel it, Johnny. I mean, you're driving the car, but you can feel the car behind you. You don't necessarily have to look in the mirrors.
No. You're not missing anything at the front. Tyler Casera leads this race, and he's got a 6-second lead over Conor Mosak. Andretti still looking for a podium is third. Rafa Matos, the champion and championship leader, is fourth. Then Cruz, Evan Slater, Robert Noaker, and Philippe Dumoulin. That's the battle we're watching now, and Evan Slater's right in the middle of it. That's intense, isn't it? When you spend this much time on board with him like this, you realize just how intense it is.
Yeah, and this here coming up in the banking, he got a good drive in, good under braking, but it's almost like you want to sit back just a little bit and let the guy in front go through the turn. You sit back and you get on the throttle a little sooner than he does to carry the speed. Now he's up behind him going through the bus stop. He'll learn as time goes on to sort of do the setup at the corner that you're coming out of to make the pass in the bus stop itself.
Well, I cannot believe how much green we've had. I can see you in your first race meeting at F4 at NOLA going, guys, I watched the race at Charlotte, and you know what? You don't have to hit each other to have a good race.
Yes. Well, you know, this year, oh, there we go.
And through goes Noaker. What a move! Oh, and into, is that Slater into the wall, and he's got damage? Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. He looks like
what a shame.
Broken the right rear toe link or something of that nature. So will he
certainly wasn't contact, I don't think, with Noaker, but he made a great move there. But that has taken him out, and it might have taken his eye off the ball. He hits the wall, and that has slowed him right down. Sadly, Evan Slater out of this race.
Well, he went through there so quickly, I think he mounted the curb, and I think it pitched him out over into the wall. But obviously it happens in the front stretch here, so he can turn around. There we go. These guys got, we're going, one going around.
It's all happening. Now we got a full course.
Now they go, you know what, there's not going to be a yellow. Now it's time to get going.
Now it is.
Oh, now
we got it. Wow, so much drama, and
Tyler
just before the caution, so much happening.
Tyler Casera right now is going, come on, guys, we only had a few laps left.
Now, we have to ask the question now, because the clock is ticking, whether we'll get any more race laps in under caution. It depends how long it takes to clean up, but this is your wheel of fortune. You know all about this. So how does it work as a race director when you know the clock is ticking down, but you want to get a race finished?
And exactly what you're looking at. You don't want to finish under yellow. You can see a lot of damage right there with Scott Borchetta's car. Just looks like he made some contact with the wall. We're not sure clear what's happening right now. But you had such a good run going on, and as you mentioned before, he's just done a great job of understanding race cars and doing so many miles and putting in a lot of hard work to do as well as he's doing. But from a race, now you got David Hoots down in race control looking at this. He'll see what needs to be cleaned up, dispatch safety to pick up all the cars, whether it's one or multiple cars. Once the safety car is out, get the cars cleaned up off of the racetrack, and we'll look at the clock and make a determination when we go back to green.
That's Slater's car. We're on board, but you just saw the mechanics looking at it. It's going nowhere in my mind. There's Tyler Casera, your leader. Casera from Mosak and Andretti. That's your podium at the moment. And as you can see, 37 laps of the 45 gone, but I'm thinking more of the clock now, Scott, in terms of whether we get going again. What a frenetic race.
Oh, the pace has been amazing. It's been like qualifying style.
It has, hasn't it?
Which is really great. I can tell you the drivers are just exhausted right now being inside the car.
Well, I noticed that Scott Borchetta, and he's just before of the banking there at turn 6, and he was just sat there with his arms folded going, right, let's take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Now, we can take another look at the incident that involved Evan Slater and Noaker, because obviously that was part of what was a frenetic moment just before we got the caution. So Slater takes the gloves off. Here we go. Scott, what do you see?
Up over the curb. See, and he just caught that inside curb, and you see this sort of pitch the car to the outside, as I mentioned previously. I thought I saw that in the background of what we were covering at that point in time. And you do that, and then you end up in the scenario where the car goes towards the wall, and you're just a passenger.
And as I thought, Noaker had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. And here's Zach in the back bus stop with everybody going for the same piece of pavement all the time. And everybody's starting to get a little bit more tired. They're starting to miss their marks. A little bit of battling going on.
Yeah.
That's the situation. We're on board right now with Slater. You can see that.
Yeah.
It was an over-under situation. Ended up catching the curb on the left-hand side. Just pitched the car to the outside wall.
Real shame after what had been a really good performance. There's your leader, Tyler Casera. He's got Sheehan behind him, but Sheehan is not battling with him. And we are under caution here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're on the ROVAL for the first time on a point-scoring race here in Trans Am. We did come here last year. We got a Pro-Am race last year. Connor Mosack was on the podium in TA2, and he will be again in this one if all stays the same. That could change, though. Rafa Matos on board with him at the moment. He, at the moment, is currently in 4th position, which is not a bad day at the office given his qualifying. He might settle for that. Adam Andretti doing a good job of keeping himself clean and tidy and looking for that podium.
Well, you know, I sat back and watched Rafa, and I was wondering if he was trying to keep the tires underneath him for a situation like this, or is the car just not liking to him with the Adam Andretti setup on? I think we're going to find out here very quickly on this restart of who's really taking care of tires and who really doesn't have a car that's actually going to be able to get to the front.
How hard is it when you've been the adrenaline flowing like it is, and then you slow down so quickly? I hadn't even factored this in until a few years ago. When you're in a big hot car like this, it gets hotter, not cooler.
It does, yeah. And then you start to think about it, because when you're driving, you're not thinking about it because you're so focused on being on the racetrack, hitting your marks on entry and your apex and the exit and what have you. The thing I'm going to watch for here on the restart, because we do not use the front chicane, Johnny.
Right.
We're going all the way down the front stretch and diving into turn 1. I'm going to be it's going to be interesting to see. And Tyler spoke about this morning when I was talking to him. He said, you know, my only worry is that getting through turn 1 and leading cleanly if I happen to be in the front. That's going to be my concern, and we're going to see if it's going to come true here.
Yeah, talk about predicting his own race. That's pretty impressive that he's that mindful of it, of looking ahead that far, and look where he is. Let's head down. Ben's with Evan Slater.
Hey, I'm in the pits with Evan Slater. Evan, you got up to 6th place. You're here with the owner of your sponsor, Cube 3, Nick Middleton. Not the finish that you wanted, but man, did you show speed.
Yeah, it was a really close race, but we were racing hard at the end, and I ended up in the wall. But it was a ton of fun while it lasted.
Now, Nick, thank you so much for sponsoring our drivers. That had to be exciting up until the part you hit the wall.
Well, that was phenomenal all the way through. He was pushing all the way. He was inches away from making the next move up to 5th place. He's a phenomenal hard driver, very young, and we're looking forward to a phenomenal season right now, seeing him on the podium. So this is just bad luck, but he fought all the way today, and I couldn't be more proud of him. So great job. Thank you.
And thank you for your support of the series and our drivers. Thank you very much. Evan, great insight. Jonathan and Scott, back to you.
Perfect stuff, Ben. I bet you would have loved a sponsor that was even still happy with you after you smashed it. No, unfair. He had done a good run, Evan Slater.
And he was absolutely true. He did such a great job. You know, for these young drivers going against a lot of the veterans, it's really true testament. Hopefully they're watching, they're learning, and as you say today, these kids are on iRacing. They know all the racetracks. I mean, in my day by looking at magazines or watching on races on television, there wasn't the way through computers of iRacing. Today, kids come in, they know where the racetrack is, they know the lefts and the rights, and it's such a great learning tool, which we talked about is needed because all these series don't have too much testing anymore.
You know what? I'm going to let an insight in, and I made a note of it last night. Tyler Casera said something that really pricked my interest. He said he's been on iRacing for the last few weeks, practicing this course. He'd not raced it before. He is a sim racer. He was our runner-up in the E-Championship. He has been starting from the back in his own car, crashing out, smashing out, taking risks that you wouldn't in real life to find the limit and work out how to run this racetrack. And look where he is.
Yep. And the reason he did that, remember, he said to us, because if I get in a situation, I need to know where to pass, where the danger zones are. That's how he said to me, I now know where the danger zones are because I've gone back and watched it. The worst one is turn 1.
Yep.
And what's he going to be? He's going to be the leader going into turn 1. So you think that's not in his mind?
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, like I said before, get out there on the sims. It's a huge tool in today's modern racing, no question about it.
The pace car driver out there, James Rogerson, is also the pace car driver for our F4 and our F3 and FR series, a racer himself in SCCA.
That's a nervous job. I wouldn't want that job. That's a big responsibility.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think of the guys that do it back even in the IndyCar and the Indy 500. Sarah Fisher is one of them, you know. I mean, it's a duty. But, as I've learned from being in race control, you're giving the guidance to the pace car driver. So, you don't want to be that pace car driver And you end up going off and sliding off like some have done. I'm not going to mention names.
Yes, and you don't want to be that pace car
Yeah.
driver in Detroit when it's not raining.
There you go, yes.
And you turn it around. No names mentioned. But yes, I wouldn't want that responsibility. So the Honda Civic pace car leads the way. Tyler Casera leads this race from Conor Mosack. Adam Andretti is in third position. Adam had a bad Sebring. Conor raced here, one of the few that did last year. And Rafa Matos, fourth place, would do him fine after the qualifying section he had yesterday. He said to me this morning it was the worst he'd ever had. Couldn't find any grip, and he literally just copied the setup that Adam had, and that's the way they work. So, but that's never satisfying. It doesn't matter how good the setup is; it's not your setup.
Well, and the thing is you feel like no matter how you did on the weekend, what did I miss? Yeah. Okay, am I missing something? Because you want to be the guy that knows what it needs to come in and say, I want this spring, I want this in the shock, I need this type of roll bar. That's the sort of thing. So, as we get towards looking towards a restart here, the tires on these cars, 185, 190 degrees Fahrenheit, they're going to cool down a little bit. I was talking to the Pirelli engineers over there, maybe 160, 165. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's that last lap before the tires fully come in. The tires come in about 3 laps after getting out there and running. So right now, the car's going to move around a little bit. Will the optimum grip be there going into turn 1? Not really too sure. That's what you're going to have to find out as a driver. How hard do you push it? How much grip do you have? Because if you make a small mistake and you slide in a restart, you're probably going to get passed by 2 or 3 guys.
So let me ask you this. How long, in your mind, would it be to go from 160 to 180?
That's probably that last lap. That's probably that second or third lap, and when you go out there on cool tires. So they'll come up there within a lap. They'll get right back in there. But it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's noticeable for the driver sitting in the car. And it plays a mental game on you, too. You're just going to drive the car to the limit.
When you were driving, would you like to be left alone at this stage, or do you want to be in deep discussion with your engineer?
Something I think they can't help you in time. I mean, you know where you are. We're either first or you're fourth or you're whatever you are. But that's going to be the interesting thing. So let's get an opportunity
here. You know what? Well, let's see if we can find Adam Andretti. He might have a chat with us.
Adam Andretti, Scott Goodyear up here in the booth. And we talked yesterday. We thought there was going to be a lot of yellows. There's only been one yellow, and we're coming down to a restart. What do you think is going to happen here, buddy?
The TA2 group here and the job they've done today. This whole, the only yellow looked like it came out because of a mechanical failure, not because of a mistake. So this shows what kind of talent is inside this grid. Clean race between the leaders to the end and see where it goes. I feel like my long run pace is much better than my great job by Peterson Racing, as always, three-dimensional services group. Great job. We really appreciate the support. And thank you to all the fans watching, all the fans that showed up here today. And thank you to the booth, Johnny and Scott. I bet you're having fun calling this one.
Well, it's air conditioned up here, but just one quick question before we get back to the restart. Tell me what's going to happen here in turn 1. We talked a little bit about that yesterday, as tight as it is, but now we're probably going to see 3 or 4 wide going down to the restart here because we're not using the front chicane.
Well, it goes back to my previous comment. I hope that the talent in this group realizes who they are and what we're up against, and we don't do anything silly on this restart. And we get through it nice and clean and bring home a good show for you fans.
All right, have a great last couple of laps and good luck.
10-4, you just heard Adam Andretti talking to Scott Goodyear there. Always a great insight, and great that he could do it in the middle of a race. So, yeah, like Tyler Casera, he's slightly worried about this restart, as I'm sure you would be in this situation.
Well, yeah, and you have to be because, as I mentioned, if I'm Tyler and I'm up front there, as we talked about, try to get a good gap on this restart. As we mentioned again, not using this front chicane, so you want to get enough of a gap that the guy in second does not have a shot or even thinks he has a shot of diving down the inside of you and making a side-by-side move going into 1. But I can tell you it's all going to bundle up as from a 3rd or 4th spot backwards. So if it's not up in the front in the 1st or 2nd position, it's probably going to happen back there in that 7th, 8th, or 9th, or 10th. So, will we get through turn 1 and have a green to the remainder of the race? That's going to remain to be seen.
Thanks, Scott Goodyear. That's the insight we're getting from the one and only Scott Goodyear. As we are under caution here, looks as though we've got time to get away from the action, but you won't miss a thing. Stay with us.
Hungry for SVRA action? Well, the best way to enjoy classic auto racing is with a delicious classic from Mission Foods. Green flag your race-watching snacks with Mission's mouth-watering race day recipes. Try some of our tasty tacos, piled high nachos, fresh chips with guac, and more. So gear up your ride and fuel up those stomachs with delicious Mission Foods. Now that's too fast, too tasty.
Speed, endurance, desire. For 160 years, Motul has helped engines and drivers go faster, further, and stronger. Tested in the heat of battle, driven with passion, with one aim, to give you superior powertrain protection and performance. Motul.
Welcome back to America's home for racing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I think Trans Am can hold their heads up high. We've put a cracking race on. We've been rocking at the ROVAL, so to speak. That's right, we're racing on both road course and oval racing. We're using NASCAR's corners 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're under caution at the moment, that's why you're seeing the cars all piled up. But Scott Goodyear, we're looking for the restart, which could be pivotal to the race end.
And it's always difficult when you've done so well in the race and you've been up front, as Tyler Casera has done. This whole situation right now, the track, it looks like all the equipment's now starting to come off. Are we going to get a restart this lap around? Looks like that might be the possibility.
Well, Scott, let me hold you there, because we've just heard Ben's down in the pits. He's got Joe Stevens, the team manager of Stevens Miller Racing.
Thanks, gentlemen. I'm with Joe Stevens, owner of Stevens Miller Racing. I hear you yelling on the radio to pick up the pace. What's going on out there? You're currently leading the race with just a few laps to go.
Exactly right. Tyler and that car has just done a phenomenal drive to, weed through the traffic and all the adversity that we've seen. But we're under full course yellow. We have some oil to pick up on the front straight, and then a car was in the tire wall briefly that is, thanks to the Charlotte Motor Speedway safety crew, has already been recovered. But our cars are going to get too hot.
Hey, we're about to go green here, Joe. Thank you for that insight. Going back to you, Jonathan.
Great stuff, Ben, as always. And in a moment, we're expecting the lights on that safety car to come out. They have gone out. And, Scott, that means we're going racing. How do you play it from Tyler's point of view?
Well, right now, he's going to wait for the safety car to go away. He's going to wait till an opportunity where he looks in the mirror, thinks he can get an acceleration down into turn 1 without that car behind him being too close. That might take an advantage going in. Let's watch to see how this plays out.
Well, as they say here in NASCAR land, let's go racing, boys and girls, because here we go for the final few laps of our TA2 race. Tyler Casera leads them away and pulls away well. He's done exactly what he wanted to do, give himself some space into that first turn, and he makes it nice and clean. Remember, they've got some of the lap traffic around, like Tommy Sheehan in the 97. So they've got to be careful and try to execute a pass on them in the infield. But Tyler Casera is through and clean. Mosak work to do. Back with Rafa Matos. Trying to put a challenge on the challenger ahead of him. And it's down to 2 laps to go. Rafa wants past traffic now, quick. That's not easy.
And the difficult thing right now is talked about, oh, there we go. Great pass.
Was, yeah.
Adam Andretti's got done a terrific job on what's going on here.
Well, he knows that he's taken a really nice move there on Rafa. I don't know if he's got a problem.
No. Well, he did a great job because he made the pass here. He's getting past lap traffic in that situation. So here we go down the bus stop. Nice, clean run with only a couple of laps left to go.
Yeah, really good stuff. Adam Andretti pouncing at just the right time because the white flag is starting to get ready to be flown here at Charlotte. We've got another spinner here at the bus stop. Meanwhile, Tyler Casera and Mosak are back to their battle. Mosak's right there with Tyler Casera. He's done the hard work. He's caught right up with Casera. They dealt with traffic. Now it's a race to the flag. White flag waves. All sorts of drama on the front straight. 2 cars stuck in front of the green of the white flag that just waved. Meanwhile, it's a straight battle. Scott Goodyear on the final lap between Tyler Casera and Connor Mosack. What does Connor have to do?
He's just got to make sure he hits his point drive exactly what he was doing before. It's so easy to try to overdrive the car to make sure the guy behind you doesn't have the opportunity. Just be perfect on your entry points, hit the apex, power down, and he's got a fast enough car. We heard that from his crew chief, and he'll be looking towards the checkered flag.
All right, here we go then. Final lap. It's been a real doozy. 100 laps of a pure adrenaline, pure motor racing here in TA2. Tyler Casera on the high banking out of NASCAR 2 and down towards, that's the incident I was talking about. That's right in front of our commentary position. And it involves obviously Dumoulin, the Canadian, there he is on board, and the 70 of Brent Cruz. Back with the leaders, time running out, they're out of the bus stop, onto the high banking. This is it. Tyler Casera has just got this last corner, and he's holding off Connor Mosack. One more chicane to come for the Liqui Moly 77. Joe Stevens, Miller Racing car, comes out of the last corner, and that is terrific. Tyler taking the checkered flag and winning. Tyler Casera wins in Charlotte in style. Excellent stuff by him. Joe and the team are applauding. Connor Mosack kept him honest. The youngster, the 23-year-old, Tyler Casera, the 30-year-old, and Adam Andretti does get ahead of his teammate to take third place in a podium, a well-deserved one for the three-dimensional services team. Rafa Matos, our championship leader and current champion, takes fourth place. And Brent Cruz rounds out the top five. Scott Goodyear, can you catch your breath and give us an idea of what you thought of your first commentary on a Trans Am race?
I loved it, had a lot of fun, but I'll tell you the thing that I noticed from the beginning of the race to the end of the race, and Tyler said this last night, I set my car up so it's the best at the end. If you noticed, and the last few laps, especially coming back to this restart, he was now able to get out of the corners faster than the competition for Tyler Casera. So I think now what we end up doing is, Connor Mosack, sorry, in that scenario, what ends up happening is that he was able to get that drive where he wasn't before. He was better under braking, rolling through the middle of the turns, but his car did get better corners, and he didn't have the threat of be trying to pass him going down the chicane or the bus stop.
Yeah, also impressed with Connor Mosack. We mentioned at the beginning of the race, they've got another race at Road Atlanta up the road, just a few hours away next weekend. So you do not want to go there with a damaged car in any way. And so many have fallen to that problem and will have a lot of work to do in this week. But no problem for Tyler Casera. That car is absolutely mint. Polish it and take it to Atlanta.
That's exactly what you want to do, and the crew appreciates that too.
Yeah.
We've all crashed cars before, and they're working late at night, and you got to go to the local pizza place and buy a bunch of pizza and bring some pizza back to the guy the garage.
No kidding. That's just to keep them on side. Brilliant run by Tyler Casera. I mean, he gave us his game plan last night, and he ran it to perfection.
Yeah. It's really impressive because very calm, cool, and collective. You know, he's 37 years old, a guy that, was trying to make a racing program, but he says, I really enjoy this. I want to keep on doing this for as long as I can. And if he keeps doing races like he did today, he'll have a lot of opportunity to stay in this class for a long period of time.
Well, that was such a great race, and you come to a hallowed hall that is Charlotte Motor Speedway. We've seen so many great NASCAR races here, and you want to put it on a good show. I know John Claggett and Tony Pirelli, but they got to be happy with the way their boys acted. Likewise, race director David Hoots, of course, who did 30 years in NASCAR himself. The boys behaved, they did a good job, and frankly, that was as clean a race as we could have hoped for, and we're about to see a smiling, bearded Tyler Casera in a moment. Liqui Moly should be happy with that too. The sponsorship and the winning continues. They did it with Skeen, and now they're doing it with Casera. I'll say it again, guys, get on your sims. If you want to do what Tyler's doing, that's how he started.
Hey, Eric, can we open that?
I bet that's a hot day at the office. There he is.
Open that gate.
And in a moment, we'll hear from the man himself. Haha, there's the smile. Got the hat on, the Sunoco hat. Ben Sissel will be down there. That wind is still blazing. And he's getting some congratulations from the team. And I can see Ben's getting into place.
My best friend Dan, crew.
Let's head down to Ben Sissel. He's got our winner,
Tyler Cassera, in one of the most exciting TA2 races I've ever seen. Now, I got to tell you something. Before the race, when I was putting the camera on the back, your grandpa Bob came up to me and said, you're going to be talking to Tyler after this race. So he called it. How's it feel?
Amazing. I got to thank these Stevens Miller Racing guys so much. This car was amazing today. Built a great car. Liqui Turn 14 distribution for coming on board and getting me in this car. Trans Am, and yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I knew we would be strong today. I just didn't know what kind of long run pace we'd have because we didn't get any real good long runs, and I just worked on Connor and kind of managed to get by him on the front straight going into one, and just kind of started driving away and started conserving a little bit, and it just feels great to be back here, you know. And it's been a little bit since I've been here on the top step of the podium, and I'm super thrilled for everybody and myself too, just to be back.
Now, Tyler, that was one of the most exciting races I've ever seen. And then, just to add a little wrench in the spokes, we go, what, full course yellow with 5 laps left. What were you thinking then?
Oh, man. Well, my dad came over the radio. He was spotting for me and just said, you know, I don't think this is going to finish under green because there's, you know, oil dry down everywhere. And so, you know, then I started seeing him slow us up, and I knew we were going to go back green. I knew it was going to be a 1 or a 2 lap shootout, and I knew everyone's tires were going to cool off, and those guys were going to be strong again at the end. And Connor was on me. I was doing everything I could to hold him off. It was just, you know, lucky the double yellow came out there at the end when it did. But still think I could have held him off to the line. Just made it a little bit easier.
Nice. Tyler Cassera, congratulations. Good job. Now I'm here. 2 podiums in a row here for Connor Mosack at the Charlotte ROVAL. What a crazy race. How did it feel?
I feel like we had a really good car on the short runs. You know, just with the higher tire pressures that we were mandated to run, I think we just had no grip at the end. So I don't know if they were able to start lower or something because, you know, there's no way we could have started lower. And once our tire pressures came out, we just lost all our grip, and it seemed like he just got better. And then he jumped the restart at the end. They were probably worse than anybody I've ever seen. So when he missed the corner down there, I think we would have had a shot to get inside of him had, you know, we gone when he went, but. You know, we'll see if anything happens, but otherwise I'm just thankful for my guys and having High Point University on the car. At least we were able to get them on the podium, and Nick Taylor as well, and just we'll be back in Atlanta.
Perfect. Thank you, Connor. I love the honesty from our drivers. Adam Andretti, our in-car commentator, 3rd place. Unbelievable, man. How was that race?
You know, it was tough. It was a challenge for us. I didn't have good opening pace, so I had a hard time staying with the front 2. I obviously was reeling Connor in as that long run went, and I felt like I had that really good long run pace. And actually on the restart, the car fired off pretty well. Lap traffic was kind of a bit of a battle there, and I almost got sucked into another mistake as I did with Barry just before that caution. So all in all, we salvaged that 3rd. I had an awesome race with my teammate on that restart, which was so much fun, and because we truly are just very close friends, and we enjoy what we get to do together. And he's just the best teammate, the ultimate teammate. And we got to go race hard and rub a little bit and make the boss smile, which is always good. But very proud of Peterson Racing, this whole group here on this 86 team, 3-dimensional services group. You know, what they do to back us and all the support they give us in this series. We can't thank you enough, and all you fans tuning in. We don't do it for anybody but you and all the ones that showed up here. So thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Adam Andretti, his team owner, Doug Peterson, actually wins Masters also. Good day for 3-dimensional services group. Jonathan Scott Goodyear, what a race. I'm going to send it back to you.
Doesn't get much better. A big smiling Adam Andretti at the end of that one. And yes, a great race with his teammate Rafa Matos, the current champion. And I think we're going to see more of that as the season goes on. Let's check on the results. Tyler Cassera, a brilliant victory to kick off his 22 campaign of winning in the Liqui Turn 14 distribution. What a race. Connor Mosack, yes, gave a shout out to his university where he got an entrepreneurial degree, and I think he's going to be doing well with that. 2nd place to him. Adam Andretti 3rd. Rafa Matos in the 3-dimensional services group in 4th. Robert Noacre 5th in the Noacre Racing team. Misha Goykberg, good result for him for BC Racing for Canada. And in 6th place, Dylan Archer then in MMR FPEC Racing Group. He takes 7th. Jeff Sexton in the Horse Soldier Bourbon Whiskey, the man from Texas, in 8th position. Cameron Lawrence, a former champion for Franklin Road Apparel, taking 9th. And Darren Mock rounding out our top 10 for AAN Adjusters. And a little further down, let's take a look. Brent Cruz, good result really in the end. He had some ups and downs, did our youngster, but that is actually a very good result here at Charlotte for Brent Cruz in the Nitro Motorsports car. Luis Philippe Dumoulin, the only Canadian one of two Canadians in the race, in 12th position. Aaron Pierce in 13th. Michelle Abate for Ghost Energy and BC Race Cars. She takes 14th. She, of course, teammate with Misha Goykberg. Rhett Barco, our Rookie of the Year last year, takes 15th position for the Berryman Napa MPCE. Then Tom Sheehan, Matt Perrant, Keith Prochuk, Connor Zilic. Well, Connor Zilic had some electrical problems, but he did make it up to 19th, having started at the back. Not a good race for Thomas Merrill, though. 20th position. He had been at the sharp end for much of it in the Bridge Hall car. A little further down, Barry Bowes, Evan Slater, you saw go out, and most of these now are non-finishers. Scott Borchetta causing that incident. Doug Peterson had a problem too. He had a vibration. Elias Anderson from Driftwood in Texas, 25th. Swalich in 26th. Lostowski out early, as was Ty Young. Jim Gallagher didn't start, and nor did Jet Nolan. And that's the results of TA2 from round 2 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now, well, we look at the highlights. We could roll the whole thing again. There were so many. Adam Andretti was right in the thick of it early on. Connor Mosack had the lead early on in the 28. The 23-year-old has been here before, though, and knows the track. Evan Slater in the wars at the roller coaster. That probably felt like a roller coaster. And talking of which, round goes the 14 of Matt Perrant. No cautions early on, and no cautions for a long time, but there was attrition. Lostowski, one of them. Meanwhile, Mosack, no problems for him, but suddenly he was getting the attention of this man, Tyler Casera. Oops, into the wall goes Evan Slater, out of the race. Meanwhile, picking it up, Connor Mosack getting past the traffic and then going in pursuit of Tyler Casera. How close was it? That's how close was it. And there was still traffic at the checkered flag as they came to it, but it was Tyler Casera all the way who takes victory. What a race. I'm going to leave the last comment to Scott Goodyear. I think you enjoyed that, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. A torrid place, which was just terrific to see because everybody was running qualifying type laps. And, you know, I have to think that the pressure on a lot of drivers here to show well in the Charlotte area. I think Connor Mosack, with his not being very happy on the restart from Tyler Casera, shows you just how much pressure was on the driver to be able to win this event. And, you know, the guy leading the event, honestly, Johnny, is going to turn around and take a start whenever he can. As soon as that pace car goes in, off he goes. And he did get a great restart. He wasn't able to contend going into turn 1. And I think I saw some great racing today in some brutal beast of race cars.
And as a race director yourself, got to be impressed with how clean they were. I said about Nashville, and we kind of surprised everybody there. This is one of those tracks where everything possibly could go wrong. Precarious, walls everywhere. Your thoughts?
Oh, especially on the infield, because everybody has said there's the infield here on the ROVAL, number 1. Number 2, you've got all these young guns that generally overdrive race cars and makes mistakes. We really didn't see that today, so there was a lot of opportunity for that. Great torrid race, as I said, clean racing, very impressive show.
So we always leave you with our chill out moment, and of course it has to be the man of the moment, and that is, of course, Tyler Casera. Tyler Casera was absolutely impressive, and he gets our chill out move of the day. Quantum cooler moment from Chill Out Systems, and Tyler Casera, a clean set of heels throughout the race. Under pressure, massive pressure, in fact, from the 23-year-old Connor Mosack, but he didn't flinch, and that's what it takes to stay cool when you're hot in the cabin. Well done to Tyler Casera. He takes our Chill Out Systems Quantum cooler moment. Last thought, Scott. Come and do this again. I come back.
I was, like I said, only drove one of these cars a couple of times early in my career, but they've still a difficult car to drive from what you can tell. I'm talking to the guys in the pit lane and also in the garage area, so I got to say something that this has been a very impressive show. I'll come back and watch more, maybe upstairs here in the booth with you. You do a great job.
I'd love it. Thank you very much, Scott Goodyear. My thanks to Ben Sissel and the entire Greenlight team. Our thanks to Trans Am. It's never easy when you come to the home of NASCAR to put on your show, but I think we achieved it today. Congratulations, Trans Am. Great racing throughout our 100 miles. And we'll be back to do it all again, so join us for it at Road Atlanta next weekend.
As you can tell, I like to go fast. Our race team is really well prepared. We like to look good, but we also like to dress good, and that's why we shop at Franklin Road Apparel. I own the company, and I wear the clothes that we sell in that store. So check us out. We carry all the top brands: Baldwin, John Barbados, Billy Reed, Goodman brand, and on down the list. So come see us, Franklin Road Apparel, Franklin, Tennessee.
Lightweighting means reducing mass and consolidating parts. No one tackles these design and tooling challenges better than 3-Dimensional Services. We'll provide flexible tooling solutions, including integrating parts, reducing design complexity, or even design changes. We're the go-to source for rapid manufacturing and low-volume production. Trust 3-Dimensional Services to develop the most efficient approach to meet your lightweighting challenges today. 3-Dimensional Services. Prototype, production, proven.
Menards is the Midwest's ultimate home improvement store. Family owned since 1958, Menards is the one-stop shop where you always save big money. Get the Midwest's best selection nationwide when you shop online at menards.com. We make it easy to complete your projects around the house, big or small. From hardware to plumbing or paint to appliances, we carry it all. Visit menards.com today to save big money at Menards.